Hey, room share. What it do? What it do? Hey, y'all. The word of the day is. The word of the day is reasonable doubt. Another word of the day is stand your ground. Because people trying to act like that ain't a law. Well, I'm happy to be able to tell you it is in Texas. And he don't have to run in Texas. So I just need to clear that up. And I will be happy to tell you what the penal code is. Hey, Janet. Penal code 9.31. No requirement to retreat. Okay? According to the Texas Penal Code. You know, they're funding them double S's 9.31E. You are not required to retreat before using force if all three of the following are true. You have a right to be, present at that location where the force was used. He had that. It was a track meet. Now, the brothers, they say, was suspended and going to a disciplinary school. But for Karmelo Anthony, he had the right to be present at the location where the force was used. Okay? You have not provoked the person against whom the force is used. No, they provoked him. He said, "Don't touch me." They grabbed his property and pushed him down, bumped his head, and then the other three people jumped him. You are not engaged in criminal activity. He wasn't, other than a Class C misdemeanor that is a violation of the traffic law or ordinance at the time of the force is used. To put it simply, if you have a right to be there and you're not a bad guy, he's not, you have the right to defend yourself without having to retreat. Hey, Reflections, that's in the state of Texas. Then it talked about what is a castle doctrine. Yeah, that's home. That's for home. So why they lying heavily? I mean, that's what they do because it is their position to prove without a reasonable doubt that Karmelo Anthony just lost his mind that day and stuck him for no reason. He has to prove that. It's the reasonable doubt that's going to get it. Because once he tell his story, and some of the people, because they still lying, we got to talk about what they lying about now. Hey, Janet, and yeah. Let's go. So I just wanted to read that off. I need to read something else real quick. I'm leaning downward on the, and, you know, y'all know my vision been trying to up with me, so bear with me. And this person is, let me cut that off. I don't know if I've been knowing for a while since we were, I don't know how long, I don't know. They already say I'm 70. But he is an attorney. He has his own law practice in Dallas. Did I send it to myself? Yeah. Oh, before I go there, it looks like Miss Nicole finna start her own page to tell her own story. So people won't have to be filling in the blank for her. I think that is amazing. Remind me to send that link It says, hey y'all, follow me on YouTube. My story is yet to be told. So look forward to that. That came from Miss Nicole. Okay. Something else I wanna be really, really clear here. Cause one of these little slow bunnies tried to check me in my comments about my post on YouTube about 88. Okay. So let me get here. Let me get here so I can read it to you before I delete him. I wanna put him on the platform. I just want him to know that you don't run nothing. Okay? And I know you know my next move is gonna be my best move. Where do I get to the comments? Yeah. Now I was trying to be nice. And what I said was true. But what I also said today, to thy own self be true. Pause. Today, Queen did her thing. Now, I saw this was her early morning during her lunch break. This was not when she got into confrontation with somebody. I want to be clear. Now, I was honestly proud of her for standing in the paint for truth. Not for bull crap. Okay? Not for bull crap. For truth. Okay? I said, stay focused. The whole world got their eye on you. Peace. So this little funny little bunny rabbit comes in my comment talking about what a wow or some stuff. Keep that energy. I'm trying to get to the comment. I'm like, who? Grown woman status. Oh, where is it? Okay, hold on. Let me, because I need to be clear. Yeah, little funny looking rabbit. You know, you just can't be nice to people. And I don't know if he was trolling for her, talking for her. I don't know. But I need to put him on blast real quick in a hurry. Why won't it let me get to the comments so I can get to his comment? Published. Let me go this way. Because I need for you to be clear, Terrell, Troll, you know, T-Roll. Yeah, funny looking. You know, I don't know what he was thinking, but he need to understand who he playing with. Listen, at any time, as I told him, at any time, she on that goofy shit, it don't apply that day. I said today. Let's be clear, today. Hopefully she will take heed when I say the whole world looking at you. But don't come in here talking crap. And it's always a guy. It's always a guy that's in girl business. You understand? I'm trying to get to it. I don't know why I can't get to it. Let me pull up my tablet. Because I want him to know I'm talking about him, because everybody else was positive. And I said, what you talking about? He said what I said. Keep that same energy. See, you see how black folks is? Today. Operative word, Sheila, is today. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, you know, go back to school if you can't comprehend. I said what I said on purpose. Today. Today. People repeat after me and say, today. Yeah, I know he trying to provoke. He just like Hunter. He just like Hunter Metcalf. Provoke. Just like provoked Karmelo Anthony. But it's always a funny acting, you know. I called him Sunflower. Let me get to it, y'all. So I can get to what I have. I called him Sunflower. Yeah. What does that sunflower mean? Yeah. Sunflower. Yeah. Hold on. Why I can't get to it? Dang it. I've been deleting stuff. I'll catch it later. Yeah, just so you know, I'm calling you out because I'm finna delete you. I just want us all to be clear. No misunderstandings, baby. No, not one. So I feel like, I just had to reconnect. I felt like I needed to check him because he was trying to be messy. Yeah. I said to thy own self be true. I never said that I wasn't going, I never said anything other than what I said. What'd you say? The prosecutor was very wrong. Said Austin was provoked. No, they lied. Y'all finna hear something else that's off. Just a straight up lie. My system, I had to reboot everything. Stuff was coming delayed and backwards. Bear with me. Why is it not coming up like it always do? I want to, what you say? Say my name, say my name. Yeah. So I'm going to say your name. I also, on my wall, put up the states that have states with stand your ground laws. And it's a lot of them. What's that clown name? The sunflower. Did you delete yourself? Oh, yeah, he deleted himself. No, he didn't. Here you go. T to the real. That's sunflower. So he said, wow, keep this same energy. So I said, like, what? Keep the same energy. What? Then I said, as long as she keeps up the good job, the good work, the good job. And then I said, here come Laquita. And I said, now what? What you trying to do? I mean, what is this? I gave credit off of what I saw today. Period. Then I came back and said, maybe 2 hours later, I said, who the fuck you think you are? You don't run shit? Little instigating sunflower. Yeah. So because he insists, like if I don't, like it's kind of like he don't want me to keep the same energy. And if I don't, then what? Yeah, so he keeps saying, keep the same energy. So not only am I about to unsubscribe from the sunflower, unsubscribe, right. True that. Let me block his vision. You understand? Let me block his vision. I don't need that type drama, cause you trying to start mess, cause I ain't scared of none of y'all. Not one. And if I change the energy, what you gonna do? Yeah, no, you don't run shit. Not at all. Okay, so I just needed to put him on blast. Yeah. And if I feel the need, I will do what I want to do, whether you like it or not. Stay in your lane, sunflower. Stay in your lane, sunflower. I hope you listening. T to the rail. Yeah. Little fun looking ass boy. Sunflower. Yeah. I don't know what he thought, but let me get on. Let me get on back. And hopefully you delete yourself. Remove yourself from me. Blind yourself from me. Hide from me. Yeah, you want me to boost you up, but I ain't gonna do it. Not on nobody else's platform. And no, I'm not going to go live on you. No, you don't get no Bathtub Chronicles. You don't get no On the Wall. You knew. Yeah. You don't have enough experience to up with me. You understand? You dang sure don't have enough views to up with me. And you know, D Cup, DD Cup, with the fake chopper, she tried to get me to go in on her. No, boo boo. No, boo boo. I done already ate you. And if I done already ate you up and spit you out more than once, I'm not finna continue to entertain you. I done already proved that you can't uck with me. I don't care what you believe in your head. The facts remain the same. So she tries to consistently say, oh, she don't have no numbers. She don't have no numbers. I don't know where, Garen, I don't have nobody sending me they bots that they done paid for. What you say on TV? I ain't got nobody sharing they paid for likes and views. Transferring them. Once they could get off live, they transfer them to you. Make it seem like you got some motion. Only motion you got. Okay, so let me show y'all. Since you know, Didi with no chopper, with the pew pew. Let me show y'all. Sometimes you gotta put it out there. Sometimes you gotta put it out there. You know, I know she's you know, she's slow thinking, very slow thinking, and she don't know how to get around and maneuver unless somebody do it for her and then transfer stuff to her. So let me help her out. They're gonna say, Auntie feel about them facts for real. How many views I got? They trying hard. They trying hard to catch me on the views. I will tell you that. I've noticed that. They working triple, double time, 5, 6 uploads a day, trying to catch my views. And I have not bought one. Not one. No, not one, Auntie B. No, not one. Ever. Okay? Just so we clear. How many views do y'all see? Yeah. No, not one. You didn't buy now? Like a view? Not one. Now, I bet you she can't say nobody has ever helped her with them. Hold on. Hold on. I need to get back to where I was. Just so we clear. Yeah, I know it's, you know, it's hard for her to figure stuff out and get to where she needs to get to be able to comprehend that what she's saying is not true at all. So I needed to prove that to the D cup wearer, trying to act like she got something down there. Her. Okay, so let me get on. Let me get on. The truth about, I know, Megan, you gonna lie, child. You know you're not gonna tell the truth. So before I get, let me cut this down. I got Trump in the beginning because I saw old boy, and mind you, Trump little minions was out there. Jake Lane, and then the guy, the flag corps guy who was walking around with the flag. So we can't act like we didn't see that, because we did. They were there. So let me hear this. It says we're under attack. So I wanted to hear this before I get off into Karmelo Anthony, because it's kind of a lot. So let me change this picture. And we're going to hear Adam. Let's go. Come on, Adam.
Let's start off with the bad news. Donald Trump has just ramped up his attacks.
Let's
All
go.
right, everybody, we have some good news and we have some bad news. Let's start off with the bad news. Donald Trump has just ramped up his attacks against the media and his attacks against free speech
Oh,
to
here
a
we
new
go.
level. The official White House government page is now creating specific influencer lists in
What?
which they target progressive or liberal influencers and they try to silence their voices via intimidation. There's an entire page for Brian Tyler Cohen calling him a media offender. By the way,
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
if I were Brian Tyler Cohen, I'd much rather be on this list than the list that Trump is currently on. But number two, they have an entire list of David Pakman citing some of his stuff, calling it left-wing lunacy. They have an entire page of
Oh,
leftist influencers in which they claim these people are engaging in left-wing lunacy. I want to take a step back for 1 second to acknowledge how absolutely bizarre and authoritarian this is. When Trump first got into
hey,
power,
me.
he removed all of the inspectors general, the people who cut waste, fraud, and abuse. He immediately began attacking law firms to get them to do pro bono work so they couldn't check
Cynthia
the
and
executive
Samantha.
branch. He immediately began to
Dante.
attack universities so they couldn't create critically thinking students who
Sheila.
could debunk him. He started to attack mainstream media, as he has done for his entire political career. And on this show, we've been talking over and over about how there was one variable that this
Thank you,
administration did not
Precious.
consider. And the bad news is, today, they have realized the hidden variable to their equation and are beginning to attack online
Reflections, I
creators,
see you.
commentators, influencers, as they call it. I refer to myself as a political commentator, and there is no reality in which political commentators like David Pakman or Brian Tyler Cohen
He
should be getting actively attacked by the White House.
now I know I ain't big, but I've always felt like they have like names and words and who constantly was on him, and I'm going back soon. Please know that I am going back on Trump soon as this Carmelo Anthony is over. I'm not covering. I'm not expecting the same views. That's not my normal lane. So the people who joined me didn't. Well, they did a long time ago, but yeah. So I will be back on Trump, no doubt about it. But he really wants to silence people, and I think that mass demonetization that with this un what is it? What was that word? Unartho authentic. What is the word, Lord? Why am I having problems with these words? Unauthentic content was because of. That's just my opinion. So let's go. Before last year, it was what was that? I can't even think of the word. Reuse content.
And
Let's go.
on this show, we've been talking over and over about how there was one variable that this administration did not consider. And the bad news is, today, they have realized the hidden variable to their equation and are beginning to attack online creators, commentators, influencers, as they call it. I refer to myself as a political commentator, and there is no reality in which political commentators like David Pakman or Brian Tyler Cohen should be getting actively attacked by the White House website for their views, for spreading the news, and should be actively attacked, likely going to receive an uptick in death threats due to this exact thing happening. You can't have the President of the United States or the official White House account attacking individuals like this unless you want violence to be enacted against them. So I urge you guys to go support David Pakman, Brian Tyler Cohen, Ed Krasenstein. Anybody who is specifically listed here needs our utmost support right now. So subscribe to them, subscribe to the Adam Mockler feed. We are all in this together. And I just want to say, huge credit to the way that David Pakman and Brian Tyler Cohen are handling this. Let's start off with Brian Tyler Cohen's response, which
We
I
know
found quite
Brian.
captivating. Then we're going to walk through these websites and what the White House is saying about
CNN
these specific
exposed,
individuals.
misleading,
Again, all
and
loosely to
biased.
their broader attacks on the media, law firms, universities, all of this, except in this case, they are attacking the one variable that they had missed thus far. So that is the bad news. After we play this clip, I'll get into the good news as well. Take a look.
I spend a lot of time reporting on the news. I try very hard not to be the news. This video is going to be a little bit different. On the whitehouse.gov website, taxpayer-funded website, you'll now see my name under a list of media offenders. So I am officially on one of Donald Trump's enemies list.
Oh,
This
wow.
is, I guess, a new iteration that's focused on content creators now that he's moved through law firms, universities, tech companies, media outlets, comedians. I guess we're up to content creators now. So in consultation with my attorneys, I've drafted a response, a legal response to Trump putting my name on this enemies list as far as content creators are concerned. And it goes as follows. Fuck you, suck my dick. I consider this a badge of honor to be included on whatever enemies list Donald Trump has conjured up this week. It tells me one thing, that I've struck a nerve with this administration. Only makes me want to redouble my efforts, keep going. I have dedicated my entire life to speaking out against what Trump and his movement have done.
Shout out
I
to
will
Jamie
continue
Foxx.
to do exactly that. Trump recognizing me, and also David Pakman, some other folks online, just shows that we're having an impact. He operates from a place of fear, never from a place of strength. And so the fact that he is using government resources, this is a taxpayer-funded website, government resources to be able to go after anybody who voices dissenting views.
He putting the
outright illegal to be using government resources to attack
January 6th guys on it.
It's also just so fucking pathetic for a guy whose entire movement is built on free speech and wanting to push back against censorship, that he's going after everybody because he's too fucking fragile to be able to take any criticism, to be able to take any joke, and so he
Release
has to
the Epstein
attack
file.
these people and try to chill them into submission. I will not stop talking, I can guarantee that. And again, wear it as a badge of honor to be included in his little list.
Very well said from Brian Tyler Cohen. Now this brings me over to
What
the
was
quote-unquote
Fantasia
good
song?
news. I'm not trying to flip their misfortune into something positive, but I think Brian Tyler Cohen hit it very
Baby
perfectly
mama.
here. He says it himself. The good news is, this means they are desperate. This means that he struck a nerve. This means that you guys who watch us every single day struck a nerve. The only reason Trump would do this is out of a position of desperation, and because what we are doing is collectively
Working.
If our voices weren't having a direct impact on this administration, the approval rating, and pushing our country in a better direction away from
And telling the
MAGA,
truth.
then he wouldn't be so scared. But what they're realizing is that their popularity is rapidly waning. I shouldn't even use the word popularity because they're not popular. Donald Trump's approval rating is deeply underwater on every single issue, whether it's
He hates when
Iran war,
people bring the
economy,
truth.
ICE, even immigration, which is supposed to be his bread and butter. Obviously, healthcare is underwater on. All of these things combined put him in a uniquely weak position and put us in a strong position to go on offense. That is why he is trying to go back on offense by creating this list right here. This is legitimately on the official White House website. Now, I'm not listed on here. It's only just a select few creators. I think 3 or 4 right now. But it's incredible what
His
happens
goal
when you go
is
on
to
Google.
silence
Just look up after this video.
people who are
White
telling the
House,
truth.
David Pakman. You will quite literally see a link that says something about David Pakman being on a media watch list. This says media offenders, leftist influencers,
That's
outlet,
Brian.
leftist
Ben,
influencers, reporter.
I
David
think
Pakman,
his
type
law
process.
firm was on there too.
Claim White House responds to social media rumor that President Trump was hospitalized before Easter. The offense. While President Donald J. Trump is in the Oval Office in the situation of preparing one of the most daring, complex military search and rescue
Okay, so I can move on.
in American history,
It's not
the
anything.
rescue of 2 airmen from deep inside hostile Iranian territory,
Hold on.
deranged reports that Donald Trump was either going to visit Walter Reed or that Donald Trump was declining in some news. What? This honestly framing
Okay,
this
yeah, no.
full-blown
So
scandal,
hold on.
completely ignoring President Trump's ironclad leadership in the
Thank you, Alan. Adam. Okay, so let's go here first. Let's go.
We begin with the murder trial of Karmelo Anthony, a dramatic day in the courtroom. Jurors see the weapon used, More body cam and hear from athletes as they take the stand. Anthony is charged with fatally stabbing Austin Metcalf in a dispute over a seat at a track meet last year. Karmelo Anthony claims self-defense. NBC5's Maria Guerrero is live outside the Collin County Courthouse with the latest tonight.
You finna hear a lie. I think this is the one.
Meredith, hello there. So there are two things that have long plagued this high-charged case in our community. Unanswered questions, really honestly exploited by some online, have now been made clear. Here they are. Karmelo Anthony did, in fact, bring a knife onto school property. We saw it today. Jurors saw it as well, the most important people in the room. An officer used a duplicate showing how quickly it can snap open. This is
the duplicate.
A half-opened, bloodied folding knife with a
why you didn't show
that is about 3.5
it with the one that was
long.
used?
That was recovered on the bleachers. So we now have that out of the way, hopefully. Second, Austin's identical brother, Hunter, the
here come the lie.
A lot of online hate, was not involved in the confrontation between his brother and Karmelo Anthony.
Can y'all believe that?
He wasn't even by there. He was on the phone, according to one witness. Witnesses, mind you,
y'all hear this lie?
Friends of the victim in this case all testified the same thing. No one ganged up on Karmelo Anthony. He provoked the victim, they say, and he's the one who created this problem.
Y'all hear that?
Identical brother, Hunter.
Can y'all hear me? Hold up. Are y'all here? I need for y'all to hear this because, can y'all hear? Because to me that means that another cover up. They're trying to save Hunter. And can y'all? Yes, it's okay. Because when I was trying to find a picture of Hunter, one that I could save and send so I can use it, he's been scrubbed. Hunter has been scrubbed from the, you'll see the picture, but when you try to go to it, it says not found. So I said, are they trying to remove Hunter like he wasn't involved? Like what? What? And he was the first one that had contact with Karmelo before Austin came up and became forceful. How is he? Why is he? Where is he? Huh? So when I kept saying, well, where are the other three guys? They trying to play it out. They trying to play in our face because the Metcalfs, one can't handle that it is self-defense. And his sons, his bullies, started it. But he done lost one. Lord, please don't let them put my other son in jail or prison. They don't want us to know that he is a troubled child and he was already at a reform school. And the other brother, the bully, was suspended. What was he suspended for? Self-defense is not a crime. So y'all trying to save the Metcalfs, at least one of their sons. But they both were thugs. One is here, one is gone, unfortunately, because they was thugging with two black boys that they are trying to imply are the two that testified against him with these made-up ass stories. I just need for us to stay woke. You understand? So now they're saying that these rumors about Hunter are not true. Bullshit. He told us. He told us himself. And Lord in heaven knows I will go into my archives. Y'all know about my archives. And I will lay him down with his own words that he said in the beginning. You understand? The news. This is Channel 5 news that's coming out here with these lies. So what I'm gonna do is finding videos that I did last year about Hunter. Because I got him. They don't watch his confessions. You know why? Because it was a confession. Almost. He gave us everything that we needed for it to be self-defense. Stand your ground. You told on yourself and your brother. One time you was in front of the yard telling your story. You was still nervous because you got your brother unalive. And then when you was sitting with your mama, yeah, you was sitting there with your mammy, and you was about to start telling stuff, and she tapped you on your leg. Yeah, you gonna make me go off into my archives, and baby, I know you know they deadly for the lies. So now they just flooding it. Every time you put in Hunter's name, it pulls up the twins. So they done staged it. This is just Erica Kirk stuff, where it's hard to find what you're looking for because they don't scrub the internet. But that's okay. That's okay. Let's listen while I do a little digging. Let's go.
Second, Austin's identical brother, Hunter, the target really of a lot of online hate, was not involved in the confrontation between his brother and Karmelo.
Girl, quit lying.
He wasn't even by there. He was on the phone, according to one witness.
Girl, you lying. Stop lying.
Mind you, all of friends of the victim in this case all testified the same thing. No one ganged up on Karmelo.
All the who?
Provoked the victim, they say.
All the who? All his partners. All his gang.
Melo, Anthony, he provoked the victim, they say. Case all testified the same thing. You, all of friends of the victim.
All the friends.
Witnesses, mind you, all of friends of the victim in this case all testified the same thing. No one ganged up on Karmelo. Anthony, he provoked the victim, they say, and he's the one who created this problem. Wearing a Christian-themed hoodie, Karmelo.
So the hoodie he had, essentials, fear of God. Is that what he had on? When did they take this picture? Where did this come from? Okay.
Anthony on police body camera video, almost instantly offering up his claim of self-defense in the stabbing death of Austin Metcalf. Police and young witnesses testifying to what they saw and spoke to the demeanor of both boys that fateful day in April 2025. Austin, they said, walked over to Anthony, repeatedly asking him to leave their team tent for several minutes.
So why did he go get a coach?
Was serious about not moving, staring at the
who are you? Who are you?
Repeatedly asking him.
You're an underclassman. Who are you? Go get the coach. Go do whatever you need to do. I mean, so who are you to repeatedly tell us you wanted the seat? And I understand it was your school and it was your tent, and where it was the school's tent. It wasn't your tent. Let's get that clear. It was the school memorials, and that's why I called them to see what their policy was. Yeah, everybody was trying to get out the rain. And then in your mind, you're just like, how dare this tell me no? Get up. I can hear it. Get the up. And you put your hands on it. You, your brother, and your 2 friends. So the friends that they're talking about is that's testified, the ones who should have been under arrest for assault.
And to leave their team tent for several minutes. Anthony, one witness testified, was serious about not moving.
I wouldn't
Staring
either.
at the field, not at Metcalf. Several teens said, like Austin, they thought
Staring
Anthony
at the
was
field. So
bluffing
he
when
was
he reached.
continuing to look at, now because they wasn't supposed to be raining because it was pouring down. So he wasn't trying to pay him no mind. You know, I'm not moving. I'm just not. And he talking that noise. And it's like, okay, you can say what you want to say as long as you don't touch me. I know how that goes because I will say that. I will absolutely say that right now today. You say whatever you want to say as long as you don't put your hands on me. So he was staring at the field, not at Metcalf. So he wasn't trying to have no problems. I'm just not moving. I'm not going to go into the rain so that you can have this good seat. Self-defense is not a crime. I just told y'all the penal codes where he don't even have to run. He don't even have to run. He don't have to retreat. Not in Texas. This is why Dominique says it's still in the books. Yeah, but it's outdated and it should be, but it's still in the books. Okay? So when I heard people say that, oh, there is no stand your ground, not only is it a stand your ground, it also have that he don't have to retreat, baby. He don't have to run. So all the people say might run. Why he didn't leave? He don't have to in Texas. Leave people alone. Keep your hands to yourself. Stand your ground. You don't have to retreat. You don't have to show an attempt to leave. Although he did. He didn't have to. See, he didn't know no better. He didn't know the laws. Yeah, he tried to leave. They said, you can see on the video that Austin grabbed his shirt and pulled it back to pull him back in. So he got that covered too. Check your penal codes. I put it on my wall. Check your penal codes. While y'all out here running y'all mouth about what he should have did. He should have took a butt whooping. Everybody, he don't have to. I don't have to let somebody beat me up to protect myself. No, I don't have to. Yeah, let's go.
Into his bag with a warning, saying no one would have a weapon at a school event. But Anthony was bluffing when he reached into his bag.
Oh, silly rabbit. So because he thought he was bluffing is why he's no longer here. I'm not trying to be funny, but everything that he thought caused him to lose his life. First, you tried to bully him. You tried to push him out. You tried to, when he said, don't do that, you said, oh, you ain't got nothing in that bag. Yeah, okay. Leave people alone.
Hearing at the field, not at Metcalf. Several teens said, like Austin, they thought Anthony was bluffing when he reached into his bag with a warning, saying no one would have a weapon at a school event in the city of Frisco. But in a flash, after Metcalf shoved the smaller Anthony, causing him to move backward, the shocking realization
and fall.
Anthony had gone in, they said, stabbing their
They should have
friend.
just left him alone.
Police quickly detaining Anthony without incident. Police body-worn cameras show a calm Anthony almost immediately volunteering. I'm not alleged, I did it. After the officer says on his radio, I've got the alleged suspect in custody. And then an important lie, according to the state. Two officers' audio, though.
Did she say lie? An important lie? Is that what she said?
According to the state, two officers' audio, though one is much clearer, we could hear a sobbing Anthony saying, he put his hands on me. I told him not to. He put his two officers' audio, though one is much clearer. Then an important lie, according to the state. Two officers' audio.
So they said an important lie. What? Oh, well, we know the state is lying. So an important lie. Let me back that up.
In custody. And then an important lie, according to the state. Two officers' audio, though one is much clearer, we could hear a sobbing Anthony saying, "He put his hands on me. I told him not to. He put his hands on me," before composing himself by the time they get to the police cruiser. A teen witness testified Anthony looked calm as he left the bleachers. In an attack, Anthony says, was done in self-defense in a moment of fear. All right, so on cross-examination this afternoon, one young witness did agree with Anthony's defense that his friend's size, his sheer size, much bigger than Karmelo Anthony, could be intimidating, he said. We, of course, always watch for emotions throughout the courtroom, especially in this case where cameras are not allowed. So we were looking at the gallery, the defendant and jurors. I can tell you that the Metcalf family, of course, as you can only imagine, was very emotional throughout the day. We did not see any outward emotions from the defendant, his support system, that of course, and also the jurors, no emotion from them. But that is of course not to say that this was not a difficult day for so many people inside of this courtroom. Meredith?
All right, Maria Guerrero tonight, thanks so much.
Lies.
These shower steamers from
Lies.
Bottom Store are like bath bombs for your shower. All you have to do is put these little tablets.
How much contrition? Is this something that he sort of turned on and off?
Well, you are watching day 4 of After the Hearing, a special streaming show we have here on WFAA.
Day 2.
Plus, we have special coverage of this track meet stabbing trial. Karmelo Anthony is charged with murder in the death of Austin Metcalf. Now, we have seen a lot of stuff. It's been a long day today. We're hearing from young witnesses today. We're seeing body-worn camera today, so we have a lot to talk about. Let's get to our panel really quickly here. Jeremy Rosenthal, longtime attorney, defense attorney currently. How long have you been practicing?
Too long. I think it's 25 years.
And we have Rebecca Lopez, senior crime and justice reporter for WFAA. Let's start with one of the biggest pieces of evidence we saw today, and that's the body-worn camera. Rebecca, can you take us through what we saw? This is from Eduardo Cortez, an SRO.
Yes, so the body-worn camera to me was very powerful because one of the things that I learned from that body camera footage, because I read the affidavits, I've seen all the documents in this case, and we hear where, and we see the affidavit where Karmelo Anthony says, he put his hands on me, but I told him not to. But what I didn't realize is that he's actually crying, because when you hear the body-worn camera, you can hear him crying. And he's saying, yes, sir, no, sir, to the officer. And one of the things that both sides pointed out, he doesn't resist, he doesn't do anything, he's very compliant with what the officers are saying. And he's emotional at points throughout that body-worn camera.
Right. And you can definitely see, at one point, you can hear Karmelo Anthony almost hysterical, crying, and the prosecution and the defense sort of got into this little back and forth exchange through the witnesses, talking about, well, he was sort of flat when he was in the car, and while he was during the ride back, he was kind of flat, and we didn't get to see that. The camera would probably be far too long, and the jury would certainly lose interest. But that's one of the footballs that we saw go back and forth, is how much contrition? Is this something that he sort of turned on and off? And we also heard testimony that really dovetailed with that later on, which was, well, he was walking away at times, maybe running away. It was certainly very wet out there,
Yeah.
so I think that it really goes to his emotional state.
Well, and you hear Cortez say, but when he was in the car, he was calm, cool, collected, but then the defense comes back and says, but we didn't see all of it. He didn't present, but just a small portion. And if you listen to all of it, you're going to hear him emotional throughout the day.
And so the state is essentially trying to establish that Karmelo Anthony was not remorseful after this. Is that what's going? Is that what?
Well, so one of the big battle lines in this case is over manslaughter, and manslaughter has to do with the intent to kill. And when Karmelo Anthony, after the fact, says, "Is he all right?" and if Karmelo Anthony is clearly under some excitement,
it makes manslaughter more and more plausible as a defense. So I think a lot of times in this trial,
So
we're
this
all
is why
focused
I
on
guess they
self-defense.
saying.
That's kind of the big sexy thing that we like to sort of kick around in debate. But manslaughter, I think, is.
So why they talking manslaughter?
Collective, but then the defense comes back.
Why they
and says,
talking
"We didn't see all of it. You
manslaughter?
didn't present, but just a small portion. And if you listen to all of it, you're going to hear him emotional throughout the day."
And so the state is essentially trying to establish that what Karmelo Anthony was not remorseful after this. Is that what's going? Is that what?
Well, so one of the big battle lines in this case is over manslaughter, and manslaughter has to do with the intent to kill. And when Karmelo Anthony, after the fact, says, "Is he all right?" and if Karmelo Anthony is clearly under some excitement, it makes manslaughter
Self-defense is not a crime. They already
so I think a lot
debating
of times
manslaughter.
we're all focused on
So that's
self-defense.
why, okay,
That's
hold
kind of a
on.
big, sexy thing.
So behind the scenes somewhere, they are discussing manslaughter because they know that they don't have him on no first-degree murder. They know that. They know that it was 4 guys, as well as they know that he didn't have a gun, a knife out swinging it and ready, like I'm here like he was on some, what is it? Manic, I need my medicine type crap. Y'all understand? So they already behind the scenes. So that's why that Jake came out there saying they're going to give him 10 years. They're going to give him 10 years. We got to stand up. Da, 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 da. That's the sound like what he was doing at that January 6th. Insurrection. That's exactly what is happening right now. Because they know the criteria. Let me, hold on. A while ago, I was going to tell y'all something about a friend of mine who has his own law firm in Texas, have won a lot of very hard, very racist, very black on, take a brother or sister out, whether it's going in their apartment or, whatever, planting something, whatever. So let me tell you what he wrote. And he didn't put it in a way that I could. June. Is it his birthday? Oh, Lord, it is today. Where I could share. So let me read some of what he said. Let me cut this out my ear. Hold on. I'm listening to something in my ear. I gotta send somebody a happy birthday real quick. Oh, Lord. They tripping. Let me get over here to where he said, hold on. Trump was talking about black folk today and unemployment. Wow. He's saying African American employees, work has increased more than ever. He is such a liar. Hold on. Where is it at? Come on. Oh, okay. I couldn't share it. Hold on. I couldn't send it to myself. So hold on. Let me go to his page. Three hours ago, he said, the bottom line is if the jurors follow the instructions regarding a juror's obligation on how to rule if there is reasonable doubt, Karmelo should be acquitted. This is an attorney for many years that have, I'm gonna take this out of my ear, a law firm. Said bottom line, if the jurors follow the instructions regarding a juror's obligation to how to rule if there is reasonable doubt, Karmelo should be acquitted. The problem is, okay, so many jurors do not follow the judge's instructions when there is no one in the room to hold them accountable. Okay? Now, do you understand why having a strong, diverse jury is so very important? So many black men are sitting in prison because someone didn't want to serve, or those who do serve had their minds made up before they arrive in the courthouse. From jump, this case became about black versus white instead of right versus wrong. You can lose a good white juror when it becomes about race, because they now have to worry about how their family and friends will treat them if they do the right thing. So he's saying if they do the right thing, then they're going to have problems with their friends and family. That was kind of, it's like that politically. And it's also what happened to the two black guys that helped them jump Karmelo. That's why their stories changed. That's why they're not in front of a judge themselves on assault charges. That's why we can't find, you can see Hunter, but the minute you try to go to where that page is, it says it's not found. The law is the law, but we talking about the jurors now. The fear of, hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully at least one or two people say, yeah, I have reasonable doubt. There's a lot of lying. This is set up. This is sabotage. Okay? I just want us to know what is being said. And this is coming from an attorney. So let me go on. A practicing attorney, a very successful one at that. Okay, let me finish where I was at. That's not it. Hold on.
We like to sort of kick around and debate, but manslaughter, I think, is, if I'm the prosecutor, I'm a lot.
Why are they talking about manslaughter when he was charged with first-degree murder? So they already making deals. Is that what's happening? They're already negotiating with us. Well, no, we're not going to be able to get away. Well, what we're hearing now, first degree is out. So now they are talking about manslaughter, which is why that Lane guy was out there screaming about, they're going to give him 10 years. They're going to give him 10 years. If we don't protest, if we don't get it changed. That's what he was saying, because they already talking manslaughter.
All focused on self-defense. That's kind of the big sexy thing that we like to sort of kick around. Excitement. It makes manslaughter more and more plausible as a defense. So I think a lot of times in this
because he said, is he okay? And
establish
then
that
he also
what
said
Karmelo
he's
Anthony
not
was
going
not
to die. And man said, well, if he do, but then it clicked. Because he thought he just poked him to make him say, ouch. Yeah. And then I hear somewhere in here he got poked in the stomach. I mean, stomach? All they been saying is in the heart. Then it was like it was in that area. Stomach? Yeah, I'm looking at y'all crazy. Stomach? Where'd that come from? Let's just keep listening.
forceful after this? Is that what's going? Is that what?
Well, so one of the big battle lines in this case is over manslaughter, and manslaughter has to do with the intent to kill. And
why is he saying manslaughter instead of murder? Hey, Natural in Orleans. Because he showed remorse. It wasn't intentional.
that really dovetailed with that later on, which was, well, he was walking away at times, maybe running away. It was certainly very wet out there, so I think that it really goes to his emotional state.
Well, and you hear Cortez say, oh, but when he was in the car, he was calm, cool, collected, but then the defense comes back and they said, but we didn't see all of it. You didn't present, but just a small portion. And if you listen to all of it, you're going to hear him emotional throughout the day.
And so the state is essentially trying to establish that what Karmelo Anthony was not remorseful after this. Is that what's going? Is that what?
Well, so one of the big battle lines in this case is over manslaughter, and manslaughter has to do with the intent to kill. And when Karmelo Anthony, after the fact, says, "Is he all right?" and if Karmelo Anthony is clearly under some excitement, it makes manslaughter more and more plausible as a defense. So I think a lot of times in this trial, we're all focused on self-defense. That's kind of the big sexy thing that we like to sort of kick around in debate. But manslaughter, I think, is, if I'm the prosecutor, I'm a lot more scared of manslaughter in this case, taking away my straight murder conviction, and that's why they're trying to do everything they can do to project Karmelo Anthony as sort of non-caring or unemotional. So I think that's why we saw that.
Let's talk about the conversation. It wasn't much of a conversation. So Eduardo Cortez, the officer Cortez, radios the other officers and says, "I have the alleged suspect," and Karmelo Anthony, right after him, says, "I am not. This is not alleged. I did it." Where does that? How does that sort of play into probably the state right now?
Well, if I'm Karmelo Anthony and I'm his lawyers, I'm going right back to what we were just talking about, and that's the contrition, the excitement, the fact that we're not hiding this. If you see a murder case, for instance, with a shop owner that kills somebody who is trying to stealing, that guy's going to call 911 and they're going to cooperate with the police every time. So if I'm the defense, that's sort of how I'm playing that. That this was a confession, that there was nothing to hide here. And if I'm the prosecutor, I'm trying to do the opposite, right? I'm trying to show that this was flat, that it's a confession, and I sort of leave it at that.
And when they're searching him, he's like, oh yes, so you can search my, I mean, I've seen a lot of police officers search people, and that usually doesn't go down like that. It can be very, very combative at times. But he's like, yeah, whatever you. I mean, it's almost like he's very much complying with what the officer's asking.
But Rebecca, you and I were talking earlier today. The second body-worn camera that we see today is probably one of the most powerful moments we saw in terms of this entire trial. Can you speak to?
Yeah.
This is testimony. First, we are hearing testimony from Jacob Schulz, another SRO.
And he's the officer that actually finds the weapon. And so they show this, but part of what they show, and the way that Bill Wertzke says that we're going to watch some of this video and we're going to see what is happening also with Austin Metcalf. And the family was in there for this, but what we see, and what I was actually surprised when it came up, was they're working on him, and they're doing the chest compressions, and they're like, come on, Austin, and you hear the brother, Hunter Metcalf, just screaming and wailing in the background, and it's gut-wrenching. He's like, that's my best friend, that's my brother, oh my God, I mean, help him, and he is just distraught. And I think at one point you see him on the ground and they're trying to help him because he is so overwhelmed. And that was very emotional. I turned and I looked at the Metcalf family and they're all crying and wiping away tears. And it was very emotional. And I turned to look at Karmelo Anthony and I saw that his lawyer put, I think his hand on him too. I mean, I think that he was also a little bit overcome with what they were showing.
Jeremy, how do you take an emotion? You know it's going to be an emotional moment. How do you take an emotional moment like that?
So this trial is really fought on two levels. There's the emotional plane, and then there's sort of the technical plane. EMTs don't wear body cameras, so we're not going to see that. And the prosecution called Officer Scholes, the SRO, they called him to testify. He ultimately found the knife in a folded up position, and they published the video essentially saying, well, this video is about this, but there's also sort of this scene here with the Metcalfs. But make no mistake about it, this video was there for the emotional impact, which was stunning, because we were sitting right very, very near to the Metcalfs, and as you would expect, it was very emotional for them to watch it. And so you when you're defending a case like this, you really got to win on both planes. You got to win that emotional fight, but you also have to win the technical, legal fight. And the emotions in a trial where somebody's died it's pretty palpable.
Well, and I think one of the only questions they say, it took you how long to get there or something like that. Well, no, that was the paramedic. No, when they asked the paramedic, thank you for your service. So sometimes they've been a little, gone a little easy on some of the questioning of some of these witnesses. I think the defense.
You brought up the weapon. We have to talk about the weapon. That shows up on the body worn camera, and we also see pictures of it, and we know it to be a folding knife, right?
Yeah.
A folding knife. How often do you? I'm sure you're dealing with weapons all the time, right? When you have to present evidence like that, and everyone is watching it, and the jury is watching it,
right?
Where do you take that?
So the headline, I think, when we talk about the weapon in this case, was the fact that it was a folding knife that was not completely folded. It was maybe at a 45-degree angle, and it's got a locking mechanism, and they took the jury through what that means. And I think what I took away from that was that Karmelo Anthony probably didn't have this weapon in position to utilize it during this confrontation.
I can't believe they already talking about
more emotional, meaning he was potentially fumbling for it. He had a cut on his finger.
It wasn't locked, in other words.
Locked. So I felt like that really supported maybe self-defense, maybe manslaughter a little more than not. And then kind of talking about the handling of it, which we talked about, Job, in a little bit. And this is just sort of more of the theatrics at trial. Bill Werski, who is an outstanding trial lawyer, is wearing these gloves that are very surgical and very delicate, and he's picking up these exhibits. Now, why he can't touch it with his bare hands, I don't know. My guess is we've already dusted it by now. So I don't know why he's doing that, but the jury definitely picks up on small things like that. And then when he presents it to the defense, to see if they're okay with admitting it, the defense when you do that to it, the jury sort of picks up on that type of a thing, and you can't let the jury sort of, if you're defending a case, you can't let the jury, in my mind, sort of get that real technical, real surgical, but that was I thought that was a nice play by the state.
And one of the things that everybody keeps asking about this is why did he have a knife at a track meet? But
it's not against the law. He was already suspended for that. Hold on. Oh, I want to go there. Yeah, I ain't gonna be on here long. I just heard some. I heard some things that was altered and changed. Oh, no.
He is accused
Him.
of stabbing and killing.
I heard some lies here too.
Athlete Austin Metcalf at a track meet. A haunting body cam video captured the chaotic aftermath of Austin Metcalf's final moments, but it was one statement Karmelo Anthony allegedly made to police after the stabbing that could become the most powerful and potentially devastating evidence in this case. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Christy. Hey guys, real quick before we get into what happened in court today, I need to talk about our partner and sponsor, Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. For more than 35 years, they have been fighting for the people and have recovered more than $30 billion for their clients. Now, the proof It's in their track record. They have more than 1,000 lawyers across 100 offices nationwide. Hiring Morgan & Morgan is done.
I've been in a lot of programs, paid a lot of money, and I have made more progress in the last 6 months in this program than I have with all of the other ones.
To Austin Metcalf. Now, these are sketches from today inside the courtroom. Again, no cameras allowed, no audio recording allowed. So we have
They're not
artist
telling the truth.
Lopez
Nope.
putting these together for us. Now, the issue that jurors are deciding in this case is whether the stabbing was a murder. Today, a member of Austin Metcalf's track team told the court that Karmelo Anthony provoked Austin Metcalf. Today was the first time that we heard from multiple teens who witnessed the brutal stabbing. And today, it was an emotional day in court. Court just let out Cody Thomas from Court TV, one of the few members of the media actually witnessing all of this. So truly our eyes and ears inside a courtroom where we can't record, can't use audio, can't use video. So Cody, thanks for being here once again. There's a lot I want to get to, but let's start with the body camera video that was shown in court today. What did you see?
Yeah, Chris, so they came out of the gate with that. There were two different officers that testified, so we had two different angles of the body cam. But the first officer is actually the officer that made the arrest. He was an SRO. He's in his office, and he gets the call there's been a stabbing at the stadium. So he's running out there, seeing what's going on. Of course, he's seeing the frenzy of students running in every which way, and then he's asking, where's the action at? Where am I going here? And he sees the north side of the stadium, so he gets over there, and everyone's telling him, it's that kid, because these kids at Memorial High School did not have any idea who Karmelo Anthony was. But he's in the gray hoodie, he's in the dark blue or the black sweatpants, and that they're pointing him out because one of the kids that testified, and we'll get to them, was following him while on 911. So they obviously saw this kid, and he wasn't running outside the stadium. So anyway, the officer ends up approaching him, and the body cam comes on during the apprehension. So it wasn't on during most of it, but when it comes on, we start seeing it there. And the thing about it, Karmelo actually, Chris, was cooperating. He was compliant. He was following orders. He was, respectful. What's your name? He was spelling his name out without the officer even prompting him. And he goes over and he sits him down, and then the officer cuffs him just to detain him. Before they even, take him off campus in the squad car down to the jail and any of that. But one of the most important things about one of these body cams, Chris, is the audio, because you hear they're walking along and the officer's kind of just doing some back and forth with them, and then you hear Karmelo say, he put his hands on me, I told him not to. And that's the part that the prosecution's harping on, the I told him not to part, because they're pretty much saying that part's a lie. Every account that we've heard so far in the reporting over the last year, and some of the students today, was just the whole touch me and see what happens. It wasn't don't touch me. It wasn't, if you keep your hands off me, we're cool. It was touch me and see what happens, making it sound more on the offensive. But when he said that statement, though, Chris, the whole I told him not to put his hands on me and all that, he was sobbing. The emotion was you heard it. You didn't see his face, but you heard it instantaneously. And so then a few minutes goes by, and then he seems a little bit calmer. Like you were just, high energy here, high, sad energy, and then now you're calm and just, yeah, my name's Karmelo Anthony, and I'm a senior or what have you. But anyway, that was the important part of that statement. Now, another statement made that camera didn't pick up, but from the other officer who was there, who had, a better audio on her camera, they radioed in, we have the alleged suspect. Karmelo then goes, it's not alleged, I did it.
I mean, they keep saying that. Hey, Tony. Hey, Pamela. And the blade was 3.5 inches. It was below the 5 inches.
One of those body cam videos, the second one, you actually saw, they're going up there, scoping the scene and figuring everything out, talking to some of the students. You actually see graphic in nature, the chest compressions being done on what we now know to be Austin Metcalf's lifeless body. You saw a little blood around. You just see him just kind of, splayed out, and you hear a bunch of, the kids yelling out, that was my brother.
No, they're not telling out everything, so we can't expect that until the defense
we heard a 911 call made
put the truth out there.
We heard a lot of audio visuals today, Chris,
and fill in those blanks.
Very graphic in nature, real emotional, and I'm sitting 2 rows behind the Metcalf family every single day. I could reach out and touch his father. That's how close he is to me. And, for the majority of the day, he's just holding his head in his hands, just taking in all the facts. I mean, he's been dealing with this for a year, but when you see, your son laying there lifeless, you hear 911 calls, you're seeing all the love and support that he was getting, from the friends and the coaches. So, he was supported, but, to what avail, because he's not here anymore.
And to just think, because I know yesterday we were talking about the 911 calls and just how emotional that was, but then you have to actually see the chaos that was taking place. As the body cam was playing, what was Karmelo doing in court?
That's interesting, Chris, because I was, I'm right here in the Metcalf camp, but I try to, keep my head on a swivel, not only to the jury, but over on that side of the courtroom as well. And it's just very stoic. It's just very, I don't know if the word emotionless is correct, because I'm sure they're feeling a lot of things, but maybe emotionless not in a negative sense, but it just very, stale-faced. I imagine, Karmelo's sitting there, he's just looking. He's not moving around. He's not looking around the courtroom. He's not rocking his chair. He's just looking right at it, because I'm sure he's reliving, his version of what went down that day, and probably, regretting the biggest mistake of his life. And you're looking across at his family, and they're just, just taking that in. And I have to think about it from that point of view as well, Chris, because could you imagine your son, your brother, your nephew, this kid that you've seen grow up, and now he's being accused of these, the maximum crimes you could be accused of, killing someone. So they're over there just a little more stale, not in a negative sense, but just, just real cemented in, hearing what's going on. But of course, there's visceral, audible emotion on the Metcalf side.
Yeah, and I mean, again, like, you've seen this video, you wonder if the Metcalf family had seen that video before it being played in court, and just having to relive all of this. I know today, too, that there were pictures up on the screen where we saw the alleged murder weapon. We saw this knife that was used to stab Austin Metcalf. Just what was your reaction seeing that, and then how it worked into what prosecutors are alleging?
So the big takeaway from the knife, Chris, is that it has a 3.5-inch blade. It looked like a heavy-duty knife. It's not what I expected it to look like. I've seen, I'm sure you have too, plenty of different styles of pocket knives, but this one just looks like just one of the ones that won't break when you try to cut something. The blade is not going to bend on this one. And it just left me wondering, why did you have, if you had any sort of blade, I don't know what it would have been for, maybe to cut some rope or what have you, but this one seemed a little bit excessive, but neither here nor there. But then they had, when they brought the knife up there, they had one of the officers come down and they did a little demonstration with it, because it's one of those folding pocket knives where the blade folds down into the handle. And before they did the demonstration, the prosecutor asked the officer,
you see how they done kind of backed off, well, because they know that it wasn't illegal and it wasn't 5 inches.
Like just one of the ones that won't break when you try to cut something.
What does it mean to say one of the ones that won't break? What if they needed it for track or tents or rope? Why would you want a knife that was bendable? I mean, so his excuses, it's like they're just trying to find excuses. He was within the law for the gun. I mean, for the knife. It's way less than 5 inches. 5.5 inches. It was 3. Now it's, well, I'm not saying that, he couldn't, but I'm just saying it just looked like the one that was not bendable. What? Who wants a bendable knife? Hell, clippers ain't bendable. I mean, what? Are they not stainless steel? So you want it to not be able to cut rope? I mean, it's just sickening to me.
Knife, Chris, is that it has a 3.5-inch blade. It looked like a heavy-duty knife. It's not what I expected it to look like. I've seen, I'm sure you have too, plenty of different styles of pocket knives, but this one just looks like just one of the ones that won't break when you try to cut something.
You don't want it to break.
On this one.
Who wants the knife to break?
Why did you have?
You sound stupid.
If you had any sort of blade, I don't know what it would have been for, maybe to cut some rope or what have you, but this one seems a little bit excessive, but neither here nor there. But then they had, when they brought the knife up there,
it's neither here nor there. Why did you bring it up?
Come down and they did a little demonstration with it, because it's one of those folding pocket knives where the blade folds down into the handle. And before they did the demonstration, the prosecutor asked the officer, "You carry something similar like this at work?" And the officer was like, "Yeah, as a tool for cutting seat belts, people get in car crashes and things like that. So it's a pretty heavy-duty, sharp knife." But then they did the demonstration, and they pulled it out, normally like you would two-handed. But it has this thing on it, Chris, called a thumb stopper. And it's like a little thing that sticks off the side of the blade where you can just pick it out with one hand. Not to be confused with a switchblade, nothing like that. But just showing how fast you could, just...
But he didn't do it on the knife that Karmelo had. He brought in a loose knife. He brought in something that was probably manipulated. I mean, shut up. Ooh.
He already had his hand in the bag. Maybe he already realized what he wanted to do and pick a fight. So if and when Austin Metcalf shoved him in the shoulder, he just, took it out really quickly.
It sounds so dumb.
Yeah.
How could he pick a fight that he didn't know he was gonna have? He didn't know he was gonna.
The reaction to the knife, it definitely fits. It fits the prosecution's narrative. It definitely looks like one of those knives that could penetrate deeply if stabbed with enough force. But again, 3.5 inches, Chris. You got to realize. Oh, that's another part of it. On one of the body cams, we saw, he threw the knife in the bleachers before he ran off. That's what we were hearing about, and hit up in the bleachers, metal on metal, made a big clanking sound. One of the students told the officers where it was. And you see one of the officers walk up because he was kind of in charge of scene safety, scene security, making sure the evidence wasn't compromised. He looks down, he's like, I found it. And then he says on his body cam, oh, that still has blood evidence and bone evidence on it. It's one thing, we expected the blood naturally, but bone evidence, you couldn't really see it because it was raining that day. But I mean, in person, he clearly saw it for him to make that statement. So definitely a sizable knife there, Chris, when they showed that on the screen.
Cody, I think one thing that is also important to know is just how quickly all of this went down. It is, from what's been told by witnesses and some of the EMTs, I mean, Austin Metcalf may not have even realized that he had been stabbed in those moments. And it just kind of speaks to the chaos of everything. And I keep going back to that word chaos because that's truly what it was. And today, for the first time, we heard from some of the students, some of the teammates of Austin Metcalf who were there under this tent. There was like 5 or 6 of them who spoke, and there were some common themes to what they said. These are state witnesses brought by the prosecution. What were some of the things that stood out to you just on their account of what they saw that day?
Well, Chris, one of the main commonalities, the common denominators between them all is what you just pointed out, the speed at which it happened. All of them said that they didn't even realize what had happened because it had happened so fast. I mean, including Austin Metcalf himself. They said when the stabbing happened, they said he looked at Austin and he was just stumbling back and he just, was doing, a motion like this. And then he pulled his shirt up and that's when they saw the gaping wound. But not one of them said they even saw a knife. So that was one thing, Chris. The biggest commonality between them all is that they all said Karmelo was the aggressor. They all said they were sitting under the tent and he walks up and just sits under there. Didn't say anything really to anybody. One person said that he shook hands with another teenager there, but even when he did that, he just sat down and wasn't talking to anyone. Didn't ask, hey, can I sit here? Hey, what's going on? And of course, they kept diving into the tent culture, at track meets where each tent is pretty much alluded to as a locker room for each team, and you wouldn't hang out in the opposing team's locker room. And they also said their coaches didn't really allow it. If the coaches saw somebody from the opposing team, like Karmelo was from Centennial High School, sitting under the Memorial High School tent, that just would not have been allowed. So all of them say, who was this kid? One described him as a random kid who just came down from the top of the bleachers, sat down. Questions started circulating, like, who are you? What's your name? What are you doing here? And that's eventually when they say, Austin Metcalf stood up because he was looked at as a leader of the team, looked at as a team captain. He was a captain on the football team as a linebacker, and a lot of, there's a lot of translation between football and track athletes. So they're all kind of one big family. And they say he stood up, and all of them said that Austin started off calmly. Hey, man, what's going on? You shouldn't really be here. Just get off from under the tent. Not in any aggressive way. Everything was calm. And they said Karmelo was just like not responding, just saying no, or if you want me to move, you're going to have to make me move. Just, being real adamant about not leaving the tent. And so eventually they said Austin started getting a little frustrated. People, other people under the tent started getting frustrated. Others were chiming in. Some of the people on the witness stand, some of the students testified to that they were chiming in also. Like, what are you doing here, man? Like, if none of them said any cussing was going on, they asked specifically, was there any profanity, any cussing? They're like, not that I remember. So maybe it wasn't a nasty altercation, but just a frustrating one. And so the students did admit that Austin started getting a little heated. Karmelo started getting a little heated. But then they started talking about Karmelo's hand in the bag. And then all of them said that same thing that we've heard, Chris, the phrase, touch me and find out.
He didn't say that.
Touch me and you see what happens.
He didn't say that.
They started talking about how here in Frisco, Texas, here in Collin County, this is, suburban, fantasy land. Like this, none of this happens out here. All of them were saying the same thing.
It
that they would
will
not
if
have
you got
expected someone to
four
bring a
bullies.
knife to a track meet on school grounds. They have never heard of anything like that. They weren't expecting anything like that. I mean, imagine being 14, 15, 16, and
that wasn't the first time they done seen them jump on somebody.
To the point where they said,
it's just the first time they jumped on somebody and lost their life.
By calling his bluff, pretty much. He had his hand in the bag and thought, you don't have anything in there. We live in Frisco. You aren't going to do anything. And they say that's when Austin walked up, and that's where the inconsistency comes in. Was it a hard push? Was it a one-handed push? Whatever it happened, they say that's when the stabbing happened so fast. And another thing they all said, Chris, was that it was a little bit of commotion, but they all said they did not even expect a fight to happen. One girl testified, and she was at the tent next to it at Liberty High School, maybe 20, 30 feet away. She heard the argument going on, but she thought it was just boys being boys, so she went to go watch the 3200 race, and by the time she walked down to the fence, Austin was stabbed. And, the prosecutor asked her, if you're a teenager, if you expected a fight, teenagers are going to pull their phones out. We've seen fights before in high school. It's like watching a wrestling match. You're not going to turn away from that, but everyone seemed to turn away. People were on their phones scrolling TikTok, scrolling Instagram, not really concerned with what was happening. They heard it happening, but it wasn't to the point where they thought this would be the result here.
Yeah, and it's just, you think too, for all these kids who are testifying today, these teenagers, I mean, they've probably lived and thought about this moment, going into this courtroom, facing Karmelo Anthony and saying this ever since this happened more than a year ago. The 10 culture stuff, I noticed that keeps coming up. That seems to be like a constant theme. And the other part too that stood out to me, just looking at some of the notes from today, is how many of them bluntly said in court that they did not believe that this was self-defense. And it just seems like that is something, if you're a juror, I mean, that, from the defense standpoint, that's got to be something that gets, at least I would assume his defense attorney frustrated, where you're having these witnesses, the people who are there, looking at jurors and saying, I do not believe that this was self-defense. How did the defense today handle these witnesses that the state put on the stand?
Yeah, Chris, that was one thing that stood out to me when I was sitting in there. I was actively thinking about it as the proceedings were going on, was that under cross-examination, the defense was not really attacking these students aggressively. I don't know if that's a strategy move, given, some of them are minor, some of them have graduated, going off to college here in the fall, but they weren't really going at them as hard as I expected them to. I would imagine you have a couple of teenagers, you're trying to slice and dice their stories, find every inconsistency that you can find. But the thing about it is they were essentially asking the same questions that the prosecution was asking. And the kids were just reiterating what they already said under direct. So it's a very interesting strategy to me, Chris, because, I always looked at cross-examination as you're trying to essentially cross somebody up to go in the favor of your client on the defense's side. So real lack of aggression here, but of course we're only on day 2. We don't know what they're playing for their case once that comes around, what that's going to be like. Of course, maybe it'll be more intense than we think. But right now, Chris, it just seems a little pulled back. But we'll have to see as the trial continues.
Yeah, it seems like they're just trying to maybe weather the storm, a little bit with these witnesses, because these are witnesses that were under Austin Metcalf's tent. These were Austin Metcalf's friends. And I don't know if the defense has brought that part up. I did notice that they've brought up Karmelo Anthony's size multiple times, that he is smaller than Austin Metcalf.
Okay.
I think Austin Metcalf is like 6'1",
over
6'2",
here.
215.
I don't like him.
Karmelo Anthony maybe like 185, right? I mean, I know.
Yeah, I'm sleeping. I'm tired. Hold on, let me do this one. I want to hear them. I was waiting for them yesterday. Where is it at? Oh, hold on. Where is it at? Oh, that was the one. I thought it was going to be the other guy. Oh, wow. Hold on. I thought that was the other guy. Hold on.
Google Fiber is now officially G Fiber. From the internet
Track meet, and they claim that Anthony's act. Welcome back. Frisco high school students who witnessed the fatal stabbing of Austin Metcalf backed up the state's case during testimony in the Karmelo Anthony murder trial today. Those students describe a tense scene inside the tent at a track meet, and they claim that Anthony's actions were not in self-defense. Our JD Miles joins us live now from the Collin County Courthouse with the very latest.
Yeah, I'm tired of hearing. I'm tired of hearing the lies. Jurors watch body cam.
This was the most painful day of the trial by far for the family.
You're watching live now from Fox. It's great to be with you on this Friday evening here. We're going to stay in Texas for our next story as the courtroom on the second day of testimony in the Karmelo Anthony trial has adjourned. The former Frisco Independent School District student is accused of fatally stabbing another student at a high school track meet. Karmelo Anthony faces a murder charge in the death of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf. Police say Anthony and Metcalf got into an argument over seating in the stadium stands on April 2nd, 2025, which escalated when Anthony stabbed Metcalf in the chest with a pocket knife. Here to break it all down for us, day 2 in the courtroom, Fox 4's Amelia Jones. Amelia, what can you tell us?
Hi there, Alex. The prosecution called multiple students to testify during the afternoon session of court. Those students were there at the track meet that day. They were either under the Memorial High School tent or nearby. Now, many of these students are minors, so this was really difficult for them to describe and relive what happened. Many of the students also interviewed with police detectives for the initial investigation, and the defense brought those police transcripts of those interviews multiple times during cross-examination. Friday afternoon's testimony consisted of students recalling what they saw and heard at the track meet last April. Most of the students are minors, under the age of 17, so their names cannot be shared. Much of the teenagers' testimony was consistent. A few described seeing Anthony, a Centennial
Hey, Mrs. Tom. Hey.
tied to a student under
Hey,
the
Candy.
memorial tent and sit by him. They testified that 17-year-old Austin Metcalf verbally told Karmelo Anthony, 17 at the time, to leave the memorial tent multiple times. They also testified that Anthony did not move and kept his hand inside his backpack. Multiple witnesses told the court they heard Anthony say, "Touch me and see what happens." The description of the physical altercation between Metcalf and Anthony differed between witnesses. Some witnesses...
Oh, okay. Hold on.
One hand.
Hey, y'all. I'm finna go to a video I was sent earlier today, and that's the one I've been asked to play. So I'm gonna play it before I get caught and lost in the sauce, and I am sleepy rap, so I'm glad that I was reminded. I only saw one. You said of a lady, and I started it. So I know it's in my history. Let me see, y'all. Yeah, I wanted to hear him too. They ucked up. Oh, wow. Okay, so let me play this, and then I will find that one.
Do not be out here buying
generic
Viagra from CVS, especially if you're a man over 40.
I'm gonna play them both.
Finesse straight up. Friday Plans is basically giving away 9 of them 100 milligram generic Viagra.
Just pause there.
Over at Fox News are absolutely panicking. Yeah, well, obviously, first and foremost, I think this
he
is
said
the only defense
that the state messed up. So let's see where they messed up, and then I'm gonna go to your video. I'm gonna send it to myself again.
Let me put like this: if Austin never decided to take it upon himself to assault Karmelo, he'd still be alive.
Facts with your Q self.
So the white supremacists over at Fox News are absolutely panicking after they made the mistake of bringing on an expert attorney, Mark Astor, who revealed to them that Carmelo Anthony might possibly have been handed a get out of jail free card as a result of the racism of the prosecutors who are trying this case, this murder case with Carmelo Anthony, who of course who has been charged with first-degree murder of Austin Metcalf. So we're going to dive into that
Jurors in
situation. We're
tears.
going to listen to what this expert defense attorney, who's also prosecuted criminals as well, right? We're going to see what he had to say, and he's going to explain exactly how the greed, the racist greed of the prosecutors,
in tears,
they have secured Carmelo's freedom regardless of whether or not he should be held accountable to any degree, punished to any degree for his actions. This is a problem with racists. You see, they want to treat their own fairly or even give them, privilege, but they want to do too much, right? Melo's freedom regardless of whether or not he should be held accountable to any degree, punished to any degree for his actions. This is a problem with racists. You see, they want to treat their own fairly or even give them, privilege, but they want to do too much, right? When it's
that's an hour and 42 minutes.
Trying to do too much, well, then they've possibly put him in a...
Hold on. Oh. Okay, let's do this one because it's an hour and some minutes. What time is it? I guess I need to start another live. No, you Oh, they gonna throw the book at him. No, it's not. I'm listening to something else. They over here talking about manslaughter. That's why that Jake Lane was hollering, oh, they're gonna give him 10 years.
I can't. If your neck is starting to darken, there is only one solution. And chances are...
Okay, so I'm gonna play it and I'm gonna hop in the tub, if that's okay. So yeah, I'm just gonna play it. Okay? And come back on speed 2, please. Are y'all gonna be able to understand it on speed 2?
There is a lot going on.
For you, but if you get on my nerve, I will cuss you smooth out.
Hey.
House ain't on site in Collin County at the courthouse today. Baby, when I tell you, typically y'all know I go live. I go live from the courthouse, but I had to kind of adjust, decompress, touch the grass, and reset. There is a lot
Can y'all hear this?
This case. And yesterday, I told you guys, I said, listen, I made a personal note.
This is speed 2.
This is going to be an all-out dog fight. This is going to be a dog fight in the courtroom.
Can y'all hear this?
I'm jumping right in tonight because it's late, and I appreciate those of you that are tuned in and waited. Typically, like I said, I would go live from the courthouse, but there was just so much that happened today, and I didn't think that I would be able to give it to you in the manner that you deserve, right? From what's happening inside the courthouse.
Okay, I'm gonna hop in and make me some bath water.
And if that means coming on later, that's what we're gonna do. Now, keep in mind, let me just say this real quick, and we're gonna get to it. There are some content creators that work really hard to bring you content. I've covered other trials. I don't know anybody.
I don't like.
I know Diddy, but I covered Diddy trial. I don't know.
You don't like it on speed 2? Candy. Too fast. Okay.
We can give you a bird's eye view of what's happening in real time, whether it's covering the trial, getting the details, talking with an inside source. So that's what we do. And many of us do a really good job. So y'all be cool on the content creators that are out there covering the trial.
What about that?
Okay. And also, let me say this: just because I'm black, don't assume you know what I am. I don't live in this county. I traveled here to cover the trial. So I think it's unfortunate that people are being looped and stereotyped. Because you have these people, you have content creators that are out there serving their own agendas. They're not talking about the case and not bringing you nothing. They are just rage baiting you, and I think that's really, really irresponsible.
What about now?
But hey, we're all adults. I can't tell anybody how to manage their content. That's on them. But I will say this: we will run circles around you all day, every day, because this is what we do. You can't rage bait me. You can't bait me in. You, your audience, or anybody, because we stay on it, and I am good. I am a fucking good content creator. So come what may, I stand on business when it comes to giving and breaking down what's happening in the courtroom. So I want to say that, period. And for those of you that support other content creators, stay on their asses if you donated money and they have an excuse of why they can't get in the courtroom or what happened, this and that. That means you're not getting there early enough. That means you're sleeping in. You're taking people's money and you're being lazy. You're waking up, eating room service and thinking you're going to walk up whenever. And when you get there, you F around and you find out that the hard workers are already there, that the Metcalf family is already there in line, that the media is already there in line. How do you let somebody that doesn't live in your county outwork you? Yeah, how do you allow some people that have traveled from New York, Los Angeles, outwork you in your own county? When people donate money to you, excuses are monuments of nothingness built on bridges to nowhere. You get your ass up and you find a way to get in that courtroom and you shut your mouth and you give them their money's worth, especially if we're talking over $30,000. And let me shut up. Let's jump in. But I just, that's the way I pop my itch over here. Okay? I'm very aware of what's happening on social media. Don't bring me any negativity, you guys. I'm aware of it. But my focus is to bring those of you that want what's happening to bring you good coverage and good content. And that's what I do. So this is what's happening. This is where we're going to start. Today was a very emotional day in the courtroom. I almost started crying myself. And I want to remind all of you that are tuned in, listen, this is not for entertainment. This is a real life trial. Someone lost their child. And I think it's unfair to both families that you have these rebels, whether they're content creators, protest groups that are out there pushing their own agenda. It's not fair to either family. Y'all have to do better. This is real. It's not a laughing matter to me. I don't give a damn if it's white, if it's black. Someone has lost their child. Period. And I think this is a very unfortunate incident that should have been avoided, y'all. We saw the surveillance video. They played it for us in the courtroom. Thank you all that have donated. I was in the courtroom. Do you hear me? Second row. I saw Karmelo. I saw his family. I saw everything. I saw the defense, the prosecution, the government, the jurors. We're going to talk about all of that, okay? This is so heartbreaking.
Client pitch in Texas? Yeehaw! Conference in Vegas? I'm on it. Booking everyone's travel used to stress me out. Until I started managing it all in the pond for free. Now my team books their own travel. They see what's in budget based on their policies. Then they book their...
So please keep that in mind as you enjoy yourselves in the chat and as you go back and forth. Speak your piece in the chat. It's not an echo chamber, but please remember to be respectful because the families could be watching, and we just want to try to do the best we can, right? Because a life has been lost. That's what I want to say. That's how I choose to set the tone. So yeah, and I know how that feels because I lost a brother about 1.5 years, almost 2 years ago. So yeah, that pain never goes away. But in spite of all of that, it has to go through the legal system. And Karmelo Anthony has to get a fair trial. Will he get one? I think both sides have done the best that they could to select a proper jury. And let me just tell you something. A juror was in tears today. She was in tears today. Now this juror that was in tears today is an older white woman. And y'all know I nicknamed jurors. I nicknamed her Miss Barbara. When one of the key witnesses testified, Coach Robert Starr, who's the head coach for the Memorial High School track team, testified regarding the events that happened and what he witnessed and some of the details that were very uncomfortable, but hey, it brought her to tears. And the guy next to her, the gentleman next to her, that was a male juror, I witnessed him consoling her. Let me say this. This is going to be a very tough case for the defense. I don't know what their strategy is, okay? Because the government has come. The government is not here to play. They are not applying leniency. They're not tiptoeing around the matter. They are putting it dead in the face of the jurors. They're not saying a life was lost. They are calling it cold-blooded murder. They're saying things like he plunged a knife into his heart. They are not here to play. Do you understand me? And when the opening statements began, let me tell you how it worked. Each side had 20 minutes to present their opening statements. The government, and I told you, I said, if you want fair, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen now. I'm going to tell you what the hell is happening in the courtroom. The government did such a good job with their opening statements that I said, well, I'll be damned. I don't know where the defense can go from here. I don't know where they can go from here. This is just me being fair. I said, if the government does a good job, I'm going to tell you that. If the defense does a good job, I'm going to tell you that. This is a sad case all around. But before we get into that, we got to go back to yesterday. We got to go back to yesterday to bring you to speed of how or what's happening in the courtroom, because we also have to focus on the jury selection. Yesterday, juror number 27, 37, and 48 were struck. They happened to be 3 black females. The 3 potential blacks were struck, okay? And all of them are educators. So you had 3 black females that happened to all be educators. They were struck. Now, the defense challenged the strike, and they filed a motion for the judge to consider reinstatement. The DA said that they struck the jurors, the 3 black jurors, not because they were black, but because they were educators, and they did not want any teachers on the jury at all. That was what the DA was saying. The defense got a chance to argue their side, and the state received an opportunity on yesterday to argue their side. The defense was claiming, listen, you struck them. They were running with the race claim, and I'm just gonna tell you everything, right? They said they struck 3 black jurors. They didn't even talk to them. They didn't ask them any question, Your Honor. We want to file a motion to have them reinstated. The judge rebutted before making a decision, and what Judge Roach said, hey, listen, that's why we have questionnaires. Why use the questionnaires? Why use them if you're not going to rely on them? I'm just giving you verbatim. Now, let me give you a little bit about Judge Roach, John Roach Jr. He's a no-holds-barred kind of person. He has a very different kind of personality. He's somewhat assertive. One juror described him as scary. He sounds like Dave Ramsey. Let me read the notes. His voice sounds just like Dave Ramsey, but he looks like J.D. Vance, the vice president. Got it? Sounds like Dave Ramsey, but looks like J.D. Vance. He doesn't have a lot of patience at all. He says what he means, and he means what he says. So then the judge denied the reinstatement. He denied the motion, the defense's motion. And the reason why he denied it is because he said the state has no race relation reason to strike those 3 black jurors other than the fact that they were educators. So then the defense raised the notion, hey, wait a minute, there's still an educator on here. And they said, yeah, but she's an esthetician, not an independent school district educator. So I wanted to give you those details, okay? So here are the jurors that they selected. Juror number 5, juror number 11, juror number 17, number 18, number 21, number 24, number 28, number 38, number 49, number 53, number 58, number 66, 69, 71, 75, 78, 79, and 80. I told you this morning that this is called, that I nicknamed this jury the 7-11 jury. Why do you say that? There's 7 men, 11 women. Let me say it again. 7 men, 11 women. And then I gave you the ratio. Hold on. 5 white women, 6 white men, 3 Asian women, 2 Indian women, 1 Middle Eastern man, 1 girl. I'm not sure of her race, but I nicknamed her Punky Brewster because she looks like a punk rocker. Of the 6 white men, 2 of them are younger. What do you mean younger? They look like they are built like linebackers. They look like they could have or may have gone to school. I'm not saying they did, but I'm just giving you aesthetics because you're not in the courtroom. They look like they can play football. Oh, this is a brilliant selection. And I don't know if that's the prosecution or the defense, but that was a brilliant selection to put 2 white boys that come close to resembling the victim aesthetically. Got it? There's an older white woman. I nicknamed her Miss Barbara. That's the one that was brought to tears today. Without giving you too much, there's a juror that I nicknamed Grumpy. He kept a permanent frown on his face today every time the defense spoke. So you got Miss Barbara, you got Punky Brewster, you got Grumpy, and I haven't nicknamed anybody else. But those were the key jurors today that I received the most body language from, based on my observation, based on my assessment, and I hone in on the psychological and the behavioral traits. Exactly. So, day 1, each side received 20 minutes for their opening statements. And when I tell you I walked into that courtroom, let me give you a little bit about the aura in the courtroom. There was an eerie silence, almost uncomfortable. There was an eerie silence. Heavy, heavy law enforcement presence. When we're talking assault rifles, guns, they were vested up, booted up, suited up. We were lined up. They were not playing with us. The family was escorted in first. And then the people, the public that made it into the courtroom were escorted in second. The way you get into the courtroom is they give you a pass. That's a color-coded pass. And if you're going to stay all day, you keep your pass. If you're going to leave, you put your pass in a bucket, and then they can pass it on to another person in the public that wants to attend the trial. The prosecutor, the government is being led by Bill Mitchell. The defense team is being led by Mike Howard. Karmelo Anthony, I got a really good look at him today. He was wearing a charcoal gray suit. The shirt that he wore was a lavender color shirt, kind of pinkish purplish. A tie with a mix of colors. The entire defense team was coordinated in a charcoal gray suit. The men were coordinated. Karmelo Anthony is a very small male. And when I say small, by stature, he stands between 5'7" to 5'9". Yesterday, I think some of you asked, how much do you think he weighs? I was just guessing because I was watching him on a teleprompter, or on a television, and I said maybe 170. I take that back. He probably weighs between, just on a visual, just me looking, I'm gonna say anywhere between 135 to maybe 150 as a male, and that's me guessing. He has a small frame, a small face. What do you mean by that? I have a full face. He has, you know, have you ever met somebody with a small face? He has a small face. He was rocking in his chair when I entered the courtroom. I'm going to say, based on my experience, my psychological experience, it was probably a nervous tick, okay? I'm giving you the details. Shortly after we were seated, the proceedings began. They plowed through the day. Why is that important? Because Judge Roach said on Monday, I want this done. Immediately after we were seated, I'm going to say maybe no longer than 5 minutes. Oh, let me back up. The Metcalf family was there. They had about 10 to 15 people in attendance, but the primary family, Mr. Metcalf, the father, and the mother were there. I don't believe that Hunter Metcalf was in a courtroom because he is, in my opinion, a witness. Do I know for a fact he's a witness? No. But I do know that the judge said that if you are a witness in this case, you cannot be in the courtroom. So the fact that Hunter was not in the courtroom leads me to believe that Hunter Metcalf will be a key witness. Today, the prosecution, the government called 5 witnesses to the stand. They called Coach Rob Starr. He's the head coach of the track team for Memorial. They called Tiffany Whitaker. She's a lead athletic trainer from Memorial High School. They called a gentleman by the name of, I wrote Vince Cooper, but it's actually Hooper. So when you hear small mistakes like that, it doesn't mean that somebody's not credible, because we're having to try to strain to hear them when they're saying their name. So his name is Vince Cooper. He's the head football coach at a high school called Heritage. They also called a gentleman by the name of Mike Porter. He's a lead forensic digital analyst for Tarrant County. And then they called, give me 1 second. There's one more witness. I have a lot of notes. Give me 1 second. Okay, so I didn't get to witness the fifth witness because the judge closed the doors. He said, be back at 5 p.m. He gave us a break. I was back right at 5 p.m. I think he meant 4:59. So myself, along with 3 others, were locked out of the courtroom. And our personal belongings were in the courtroom, and the judge says, I don't care. So now I know when the judge says 5 p.m., he means 4:58. It's a very strict program. Okay. The jury was escorted in, and I gave you the demographics of the jury. The charges were read to the jury on the behalf by the judge, and then Karmelo Anthony was asked to plead guilty or not guilty. Karmelo Anthony, out of his own mouth, says, I plead not guilty. The state started off strong. Now, let me give you a little bit about the state to give you an idea. Let me pull it up real quick to give you some pictures because you're not there. Give me 1 second, and I'm going to get you some pictures. Hold on. This is the gentleman that led the direct exam, the direct examination on the behalf of the government. He did a really good job. He's very tall. I'm going to say he's probably 6'7". His name, this gentleman right here. Oh, he's good, y'all. And I'm going to tell you the truth now. Right here. This is the gentleman that led the opening statements.
I love G-Fiber.
I love my G-Fiber. Dude, Google Fiber is the best. Fast and reliable.
Quality's great, speed's great. It's affordable, $70 a month. You can't really beat that.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
For the government. Prosecution Bill Worst. He's the first assistant district attorney. He's strong. He's powerful. He came out the gate and he was using words like provoke. Karmelo Anthony, this guy, Karmelo Anthony, provoked Austin Metcalf into touching him. They have no prior relationship. They didn't know each other. And this is something that I want you to know that came out in the opening statements on the behalf of the government. Austin Metcalf died at the stadium that day. Are you following me? He was pronounced dead at the hospital. But if we're talking technicalities, he died at the stadium. And Bill, the first assistant DA, made sure that the jury know that Austin passed away at the stadium on April 2nd, 2025. And Bill went on to say, this is not a self-defense case. This is not a racial case. This young man taunted Austin Metcalf into touch me and see what happens. Touch me and see what happens when he knew he had a knife hit. And he took it after Austin touched him. And he plunged it into Austin's heart.
Why are we listening now? Why you want me to play this?
Deadly dangerous. We're going to introduce to you a surveillance video that's going to show you what Karmelo Anthony
is this the one you want?
And as he was speaking, I was focused on the jury. And he sold them.
Natural and all is this the one? Because I don't think I like how she's sounding.
And then he said to the jury, Austin Metcalf got a text that morning from the coach to step up and help the team out. And I knew where he was going with that. because I believe that introduction gives way to the question of why would Austin approach Karmelo?
Right.
Because that morning,
That's true.
according to Mr. Bill, the coach had texted Austin, as well as a few other boys on the team, that I need y'all to step up and help the team out. Mr. Bill describes the tent, and he says, Austin, yes, I am at the trial. Austin and Hunter Metcalf were in the tent first. That's a fact. Karmelo, listen, y'all, I'm telling y'all facts. Austin Metcalf and Hunter Metcalf were in the tent first, according to the government. Approximately 2 minutes later, Karmelo Anthony entered that tent. The government explains that Karmelo was confronted by many, not just Austin, not just Hunter. According to the government, Karmelo was asked to leave several times by many under the tent. The state argued that Austin was exuding leadership that his coach asked him to do. That Austin didn't want a physical altercation with Karmelo. And at the time that Austin Metcalf was stabbed, according to the government, he had no idea that he was stabbed. They said he attempted to turn to his left, he attempted to turn to his right. He lifted up his shirt, and he says, I was stabbed. Kids began to run out of fear, and when Austin lifted up his shirt, there was a gaping wound in his heart. Austin attempted to take a couple of steps, he stumbled, and he fell. Hunter Metcalf, according to the government, attempted to render aid. Kids began running. All right, let's do a mic check. Let me do a mic check. I apologize. My computer just told me it was time for me to go to bed. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Just give me a 1 in the chat. All right, thank you. Hunter, when Austin lifted up his shirt, he realized he was stabbed. He attempted to take a step. He stumbled and he fell. Kids began to run in a panic, screaming, yelling. It became mayhem in the stadium. Kids began, a few people were chasing Karmelo, pointing out, it's him, it's him, it's him. Karmelo is reported as having said, he touched me, he touched me, he touched me first. At that point, I looked over to the defense, and the defense was passing notes back and forth. The government then hones in on the sentence that Karmelo says, I'm not alleged, I did it. So then the government says, Karmelo lied to the police when he said, I told him not to touch me. I told him not to touch me. He said, that's a lie. Because what you actually said was, touch me and see what happens. At this point, I looked at the jury, and I noticed there was one juror who was sneaking glances at Karmelo Anthony while the state presented their case. I'm going to call her Linda. So the state got straight to the point. They did not take 20 minutes for opening statements, and they passed the floor to the defense. The defense was led, the opening statement on the behalf of the defense was led not by Mike Howard, but it was led by his partner. And unfortunately, his partner isn't listed on this screen share I have. But what the defense, let me just tell you a little bit about them. Here are my notes. The defense was not as loud. They were not as powerful as the government. As the defense spoke and gave their opening statements, I noticed and observed many frowns coming from jurors. The defense attempted, in my opinion, to humanize Karmelo Anthony so that he didn't come across to the jurors as a monster, a cold-blooded monster. Why do you say that? Well, they began to run down Karmelo Anthony's background. They said he was from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and he and his family located to Frisco in search of a better life. Here's a fact that I learned about Karmelo Anthony in the opening statements. He suffers from epilepsy. He has seizures. As the defense was giving their opening statements and talking about Karmelo Anthony and how his mom left her nursing job to focus on raising her children to be a stay-at-home mom, I noticed that Grumpy was frowning. He gave Karmelo's background. He said he's a varsity player. He's varsity on the track team. He talked about football. He talked about chess. He talked about his GPA. He's never been in trouble. He said he's a son. He has a girlfriend. He ran down all of that, right? But to me, in my opinion, let me leave my opinion off the table right now. According to the defense in the opening statements, the JV team went first at the track meet. They were scheduled to do their events first. And on that fatal day, it was raining on and off. The defense introduced the fact that Centennial High School did not have a tent. What they had was a tarp, but not a tent. And it was a tarp that covered bleachers. According to the opening statements on the defense team, Karmelo Anthony knew someone under the tent named Eddie and he went to say hello to Eddie. So Karmelo Anthony sat down for approximately 5 to 7 minutes, and everything was fine, according to the defense, until Hunter Metcalf and Austin Metcalf noticed Karmelo Anthony. According to the defense, Hunter Metcalf was seated in front of Karmelo Anthony, and Austin Metcalf was seated to the right of Karmelo Anthony. Right before the defense wrapped up their closing arguments, they reminded the jury, keep in mind, almost everyone that you're going to hear testify is friends or teammates of Austin Metcalf. All right? The defense painted Hunter and Austin Metcalf as aggressive. According to the defense, Hunter and Austin Metcalf surrounded Karmelo Anthony whilst he was seated in a seated position, and he made it very clear that Karmelo never stood up. And he was attacked, according to the defense, while seated. The defense also introduced, as a fact in the court, that as Austin Metcalf and Karmelo were exchanging words, at some point Austin Metcalf said to Karmelo, I know you ain't got nothing in that bag. In response to Karmelo saying, hit me or touch me and see what happens, as he's reaching into his bag, Austin says, I know you ain't got nothing in that bag. According to the defense, Austin Metcalf initiated a physical attack on Karmelo Anthony. He then introduced the self-defense strategy. And he says the thing with self-defense is you can't introduce it too soon. In that time, according to the defense, Karmelo Anthony had a decision to make. He got all of these kids coming at him. He has these twins coming at him. And he said, so he has these kids coming at him. He had the twins coming at him. And he says, can you only imagine what's going through his head? Because in order to qualify for self-defense, you can't introduce that act too soon. I noticed, and I made a note, that the defense did not say or utter the words of stabbing. What he said is Karmelo defended himself. Karmelo defended himself after he was attacked by Austin Metcalf. And at this point, I noticed the white male juror, that's the younger one that looks like he can be in high school, he looked over to the Metcalf family. At that time, I did a head count, and I made a note, at least 6 jurors don't look happy while the defense is speaking. The defense then moves on to law enforcement being contacted, and Officer Cortez responded, I have the alleged suspect. And Karmelo, according to the defense, responded, I'm not alleged. I did it. The defense's explanation of that statement is Karmelo was not trying to escape responsibility. He owned it at that point. I'm not alleged. I did it. At this point, he wraps up his closing arguments, and the state calls their first witness, Mr. Mike Porter. Mr. Mike Porter is a forensic video analyst for Tarrant County, and he specializes in digital forensic technical services. His job is to take the video evidence that we witnessed today and we saw today and extract data and communicate to the court exactly what's happening in real time without compromising the integrity of the data. So they ran down a background of who he is, his credentials, how long he's been working in that particular role. He has 16 years of experience. He's LEVA certified. That's LEVA certified. He works for audio, video, and still imagery. He maintains the integrity of the video, and he was elected.
If you have Snap or Medicaid, you may qualify for a free iPhone or Samsung, plus up to 10 gigabytes of data. Apply online in just 2 minutes. We'll ship it to you for free. Phones are limited, so visit tagmobile.com to check your eligibility today.
Got laid off? Need an interview in 24 hours? This is what I do. First, stop using LinkedIn and Indeed. Too many outdated listings and too much competition. Instead, use Job Assist. Set your preferences and salary expectations and get active, verified jobs from multiple boards in one place. That's how you start getting interviews and land a dream job.
To work on the behalf of the DA. And he helps prosecute his case by his expert testimony, okay? Now, while Mr. Mike Porter was testifying, the juror that I named Punky Brewster seemed to be very into his testimony. And I made a note, Punky Brewster may be in tech, or may have some level of appreciation for digital technology, because she seemed to really like the technical aspects of the forensic expert. And when he was explaining the difference between pixels and what pixels meant, she was nodding her head. And when he was talking about extracting videos and what could compromise, what could corrupt a file, she was nodding her head. So I said, she may have a background in tech, or she's a gamer, or she really likes digital stuff, okay? She was very highly engaged during his witness testimony. She was nodding, a visible nodding of her head. So we got that for her. The state introduced Exhibit A, and that was an overview of the stadium. The timestamp was 9:49:55 a.m. And when I say 55, I'm talking about the seconds. And it was 4K video quality according to the expert testimony of the video analyst. They also introduced exhibit number 2. It was a still frame during the morning. At this point, you have one of the Metcalf twins who's believed to be Austin. He was wearing a black t-shirt and a black shorts with gray shoes. Exhibit 3 was Hunter Metcalf, had similar clothing as Austin. The difference was the twins had on different shoes, okay? Austin was wearing gray shoes, Hunter was wearing multicolored shoes. Exhibit number 4 was Karmelo Anthony being cuffed. He was wearing a gray hoodie and black pants. There were 2 officers present. There was a male officer and a female officer that was wearing blue gloves. Exhibit number 5 is the west side of the field, timestamp 9:52:44 a.m. You can see Karmelo Anthony enter the frame through the entrance. He looks around the stadium, he has a backpack in his hand, and then he leaves the entrance at 9:52:44. At 9:55:54, Karmelo Anthony comes back into the frame. And then he leaves the field of view at approximately 9:56:07 a.m. It took Karmelo Anthony, listen, this is where you get technical. Watch this. So Austin Metcalf and Hunter Metcalf got to the tent approximately 2 minutes before Karmelo Anthony. At 9:56:07, you can see Karmelo Anthony headed towards the tent. It took Karmelo Anthony approximately 7 seconds to reach the tent. Got it? Exhibit number 6. At 9:53:06 a.m., the victim, Austin Metcalf, enters the screen. There's a second person with him, which was his brother Hunter, and they're walking alongside the fence, and they enter the bleacher area. At approximately 9:54:16 a.m., Austin Metcalf arrives to the yellow tent. So remember, Austin and Hunter get to the tent at 9:54. Karmelo gets to the tent at 9:56. 9:54, 9:56, 10 a.m., Austin Metcalf is stabbed in his chest. We're talking 4 minutes, folks. At 9:56:14 a.m., the left side, field of view, Karmelo Anthony enters the tent from the left, according to the video that we were shown in the court. 4 minutes later, by 9:58 a.m., you see sudden movements in the video. At 10 a.m., kids are running and screaming. Well, we can't hear it, right? But we can imagine that they're screaming and yelling. You just see mayhem at 10 a.m. 9:56, Karmelo enters the tent. 9:58, you see movement. 10 a.m., the kids are running. At 10 a.m. 48, you see the first quick movement in the video. Austin Metcalf visibly pushes Karmelo Anthony. You can see that. 10 a.m., Karmelo Anthony is seen moving above the tent, seen running down the bleachers, and then he falls. He slips and falls. He stands up, he runs, and then he slows down and he walks. Then you start to see kids chasing him and pointing at him. Exhibit number 7, 9:50 a.m. 2 groups of individuals are walking. Why is 9:50? So the state introduced the exhibit number 7 to say, you see the twins enter the video at 9:50, and 12 minutes later, Austin Metcalf is dead. At 10:05, 36 a.m., the police vehicle is seen in the video. Karmelo Anthony has been detained. Got it? I'm giving you facts, not my opinion. All right. Now we get into the afternoon. This is a continuation of direct examination by the government. Exhibit number 10 is entered. This is a zoomed-in version. We were not allowed to watch this. This is what I believe to be the fatal blow of Austin Metcalf. Only the jury were shown the video. They had a big screen TV that they can roll in and out, and they turned it toward the jurors. We were not allowed to watch it or see it. It was 2 segments, according to the government, of Karmelo Anthony walking in and out, but they focused on the second segment. The jury during this time was very attentive. The older white lady that I named Miss Barbara was very interested in the video. Very interested. The younger white male that looks like he can be a high school student that plays football, he leaned all the way in forward. What does this mean from a body language perspective? He's invested. He cares. He wants to know the details. He wants to see it. And when I tell you, I took notes, I said, he's paying close attention. He's honed in. It's almost like he was in a trance. He never broke his focus. As the video continued to play, which we were not allowed to review, the looks, the faces of the jurors changed from interest to looks of concern, furrowed brows. Another white woman on the far end of the jury began to frown. They introduced screenshots for exhibits 13 through 19, which were still shots from the video that were created by the forensic digital expert, Mr. Mike Porter, and it captured people pointing in the direction of Karmelo Anthony. The total video from start to finish was 15 minutes and 21 seconds. At this point, I turned to look at the defense table, and I can see Mike Howard in what I perceive to be somewhat reassuring Karmelo Anthony, and he kind of pats his shoulder. At this point, it's now the defense It's their turn. So watch this. Now I can give you my opinion. At this point, the state rests and they pass the witness to the defense. Here's what's going through my mind. You're in trouble. So then the defense cross-examines Mr. Mike Porter. And the defense begins to attack the video. And the point they make is that the video is so grainy that it doesn't paint the full picture. You can't see hands, you can't see gestures, you can't see movements of the mouth. And the primary argument from the defense is this video is your main piece of evidence, but it's limited. Is that correct? Mr. Porter testified, yes, that is correct. He says, you can't detect full hand movements, correct? Yes. You can't detect full head movements, correct? Correct. You can't detect full gestures, correct? Correct. So therefore, without saying it this way, I'm paraphrasing, it is left up to interpretation and not facts. And then I thought, oh, well, maybe they got something to work with. So then, look, some of us, where I was seated, now the audience perks up and say, whoa, we never considered that. They introduced exhibit number 12. This is the Metcalf boys entering, walking into the stands. The defense asked the forensic specialist, does it appear to be raining? Yes.
Can we pay for people behind us, please? Okay. Cool. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you. And while we wait for the people behind us to get their drinks, let me tell you about TrimRx. I'm sure you've heard of those GLP-1 weight loss medications that everyone's talking about and everyone's losing a ton of weight on, but you also probably know they can cost a lot of money, like a lot, thousands of dollars a month. And TrimRx offers these personalized weight loss medication plans for less than the price of a cup of coffee a day. And all you need to do to get started with TrimRx today is click the link below and fill out the quick form.
That question, in my opinion, gives credence to why Karmelo Anthony may have also entered the tent in addition to going over there to talk to a friend. The forensic expert testified that there was a possibility that it could have been raining when Karmelo Anthony entered the tent, but because of the graininess of the photo, and because he zoomed in the pixels, and when you ask the pixels to cover a bigger span of the picture is not as clear, so he wasn't able to confirm nor deny that when Karmelo Anthony entered the tent that it was or was not raining. The defense says, can you testify to the jury that the bleacher seat Karmelo may have sat on is covered by the tent? The forensic specialist says, no, I cannot testify to the jury that the bleacher seat may have been covered by the tent. At this point, I made a note. I said, where are they going with this? It's a possibility that Karmelo Anthony sat outside the tent on the next bleacher up. And at this point, I said, oh, the defense is getting into the granular details. I looked at Karmelo Anthony. At this time, he was locked in. His head was turned. His head was turned to the left, listening intently, and he was also taking notes. Grumpy, the juror, did not appear to like this line of questioning. His arms were folded. He had a very cross look, and he was visibly. At first, I wrote irritated, and then I scratched it out because I said that's kind of judgmental. I don't want to use that word. But then I changed it to visibly impatient. He took a lot of sighs, a lot of deep exhales, and his lips were very pert, like when you press your lips together. I said, uh-oh, they don't like this. The defense cross-examined about who was standing versus who was sitting. He says, can you visibly see Austin Metcalf standing and shoving Karmelo Anthony? The expert testified, yes. He said, but you never see Karmelo Anthony transition from being seated to standing. He said, that's correct. So, the juror, there was a juror that when the expert would talk, he would be nodding his head yes. That's one of the jurors that I counted as one of the 6 that I don't feel was happy with the defense. So then the defense said, would you classify what you saw on camera from Austin Metcalf to Karmelo Anthony as a violent shove, being that you saw it from so far away? Let me tell you what I'm talking about. The camera surveillance that the court is relying on was far away. They had to zoom in. So what the defense is saying, if you can definitely depict that a physical altercation was going on, would you classify that as a violent shove? The expert says no. I would not classify that as violent. I would classify it as movement. The defense says, so wait, you captured Karmelo Anthony leaving, correct? Yes. What term did you use to explain to the jury He said, I called it a spotlight. I was able to spotlight Karmelo Anthony leaving. So then the defense said, did you use the spotlight for under the tent when the physical altercation was happening? He said, no. But you could have used the spotlight, right? To give us a better view and zoom in on the fight. Yes, I could have. So you could have zoomed in on the fight to show us what really happened and who initiated what. Yes, but you didn't. No. Why? Because I was asked by the government to only spotlight Karmelo Anthony. When I tell you at that point, it was like watching a tennis match. The jurors' heads were going left to right, from the defense to the witness, like watching a volley. So the defense says, when did you make this video? He said, about 2.5 weeks ago. I'm letting it sink in. The defense says, when you say Karmelo Anthony was running, at some point you see him walking, correct? With someone holding on to him. He could have ran, but he didn't. That's correct. But you see him being in an embrace. He's embracing, someone is embracing him, correct? Yes. You can also see him grabbing his heads with his hands. You can see him walking with his hands up in a surrender pose. I'm just saying that. I'm describing the pose. It's a surrender pose. Did, at any time, while you were assessing this video, did you ever see Karmelo Anthony resist? The coaches and the expert testified, no, I did not see Karmelo Anthony resist. They dismissed the witness, and they called the second witness, Robert Starr. He is the head coach of the track team of Memorial High School. He's a black male. This is what I wrote before I got the facts on him. I wrote black male, of course, that's obvious, in his 40s. So they asked him, how old are you? He said, I'm 41. So I was like, boom. I knew he was in his 40s, but he looks a little bit younger. He's a head track coach, but he's also an assistant football coach. His background is he was raised in Oklahoma. He relocated to Texas. Okay. On the day of April 2nd, 2025, he had three coaches working the track meet for the boys. He also had three coaches working the track meet for the girls. He confirmed that he's also a linebacker coach and was a linebacker coach for both Austin and Hunter Metcalf. He worked with Austin Metcalf for 1 year, and he worked with Hunter Metcalf for 2 years. They did enter into evidence as Exhibits 21 and 22. They were photos. Exhibit 21 was a solo photo of Austin Metcalf. Exhibit 22 was a photo of Austin and Hunter Metcalf. He was able to ask, he was asked, are you aware, are you familiar with the family of Austin and Hunter? He said yes. Are they in this room today? He said, yeah, I see Meg and Jeff. So he identified them in court. Now, I'm just tell you what happened. I'm not going to give you my opinion yet. So Mr. Starr explained that the tent, he said the tent business in high school sports is $1 million industry for tents. That your tents mark your spot in the stadium. The tents are designated spots, and schools can have them customized with their logos, with their colors, and it represents your bench, which is similar to football and basketball. He said that a tent should have a coach under the tent at all times. So then the state interrupted him, and let me tell you why they interrupted him. He gave a lot of information without being asked, okay? So the state interrupted him so he wouldn't get ahead of himself, because he said he was kind of giving a little bit too much information without being prompted, so the state said, wait.
We weren't sure if gold was actually worth the upgrade. After last night, he's not going back. Watching him take Blue Chew Gold is so simple. 1 tablet under the tongue, no stress, no overthinking. The 4 ingredients work together. He gets harder, longer lasting erections and a boost in arousal. Confidence doesn't disappear with time, it just needs better support. Upgrade to Blue Chew Gold and buy 2 months, get 1 free at BlueChew.com.
NetCredit is here to say yes to a personal loan or line of credit, even when other lenders won't. Apply online in minutes and get funds deposited the next business day or sooner. Go to netcredit.com. NetCredit. Credit to the people.
Tell us about having a coach in proximity to a tent. Did you catch that? Because he used polarized statement. Initially, the coach used polarized statement. Always. Should always have a coach. And the state said, wait, we're not there yet. Can you tell us about having a coach in proximity to the tent? And then the coach said, yeah. Well, for Frisco ISD, the expectation is other students should not be underneath your tent. In track culture, you don't have someone go into somebody else's tent, and weapons aren't allowed. And they said, well, what do you mean weapons aren't allowed? He said, well, you know, it's just kind of understood in Frisco. And what he began to do, and I don't want to go into too much detail, he painted Frisco ISD as superior to Dallas ISD and Irving ISD. And he stated that Dallas and Irving have metal detectors at their school events, but not Frisco. Coach Starr went on to say that Austin and Hunter Metcalf, they are considered throwers on the team, throwers. They throw the shot put and the disc. And the difference about this particular track meet is it was a district meet, and it was his responsibility as a coach to host it. So when he's hosting this particular track meet, he said there's a little bit of extra pressure. That meant he was down a few coaches, and that was the reason he wasn't in the tent. And that morning, he sent a text to the throwers, which included Austin Metcalf, along with Hunter and some of the other throwers, and asked them to step up and help the team out. The state said, did you enlist other men on the team to assist? Yes. Throwers? Yes. Big boys. He said basically he described them as the bigger boys. They can lift heavy weight. They can help throw up the tents. They can help the girls out, carry the heavy stuff. His intent was for the boys to step up and align with Memorial High values. At this point, they asked him, was there an official rain delay? He said there was no official rain delay. They said, can you tell us what happened at 10 a.m.? Did you have an issue at 10 a.m.? He said, yeah, I had an issue at 10 a.m. with a crock pot. And at this point, everybody in the court began to laugh because he said what happened is, the ladies run a concession stand, and one of the moms or one of the ladies forgot a crock pot. He didn't think it was a big deal, but it's a big deal to them. They needed a crock pot. So somebody was bringing the crock pot. He stepped outside the stadium at 10 a.m. to retrieve the crock pot. When he entered back into the stadium, he saw commotion. And he began to head toward the tent, and kids were running all over the stadium. And he said he noticed that the kids were running from his tent, which was crazy. He said for some reason, things were so chaotic, he couldn't get directly back to his tent. For some reason, he just couldn't. I don't know if it was along the fence, but he said his brain is foggy. The memory, everything happened so fast. He said, I just couldn't get my way back there fast enough, right? At some point, he drops the crock pot and he begins to run because he thinks maybe the kids in his tent are fighting. He gets to the tent, and this is where it gets really, really emotional. He said he gets to the tent. He sees Austin Metcalf on the ground. At this point, Austin's face has turned purple. There was a gaping hole in Austin's chest. He said he just starts crying. The students are crying. And at this point, he used the word memory fog. He said, Eddie is losing it. I step over Austin's body, like people are screaming his name, coach, coach, coach. This is the way he's saying it. He stepped over Austin's body. Because people are saying, help Hunter, help Hunter. Hunter is saying to the coach, do something, do something, do something. And the coach said, who is he? Where is he? What happened? Who did this? And the students start to point across the field to Karmelo Anthony, who's on the track field. He said he see Karmelo Anthony walking with two other coaches on the field. The coach takes off. He said he testifies he hops over the fence. He confronts Karmelo Anthony, which seems like according to him, he lost his shit. He lost his cool.
Navan, the #1 rated business travel platform, lets your team book work travel in one place. Flights, hotels, cars.
He said he told Karmelo Anthony, you're not going anywhere. What the hell did you just do? He took off his hat, he physically threw it to the ground. And whatever the exchange was, the other coaches asked him to leave. They asked the track coach of Austin and Hunter to leave. He said Karmelo Anthony replied, he put his hands on me, he put his hands on me. At this point, on testimony, under oath, the coach admitted that he was losing it. And the other coaches asked him to leave and pretty much get the hell out of here. He then says that he described Karmelo Anthony as hysterical. He said he hops back over the fence to go to tend to Austin Metcalf. And at this point, they all start to pray. And then people start to yell again, please go help Hunter, go help Hunter. So then he runs to Hunter, and they start.
Oh, man, I'm sorry.
Silver and Fox News are absolutely panicking after they made the mistake of bringing on an expert attorney, Mark Astor, who revealed to them that
Let me get back to it.
Yeah, well, obviously, first and foremost, I think this is the only defense that, the defense has, of self-defense. If you read the police.
Hey, Belinda. What did I do? There you go.
And they start praying with Hunter. And at this point, this is when the thumbnail, right here. This is why we're here. This is when Miss Barbara, and that's not asked him to leave. They asked the track coach of Austin and Hunter to leave. He said, Karmelo Anthony replied, he put his hands on me, he put his hands on me. At this point, on testimony, under oath, the coach admitted that he was losing it. And the other coaches asked him to leave and pretty much get the hell out of here. He then says that he described Karmelo Anthony as hysterical. He said he hops back over the fence to go to tend to Austin Metcalf. And at this point, they all start to pray. And then people start to yell again, please go help Hunter, go help Hunter. So then he runs to Hunter, and they start praying with Hunter. And at this point, this is when the thumbnail right here, this is why we're here. This is when Miss Barbara, and that's not her name, but that's what I nicknamed her. She's visibly crying. She's wiping her eyes. She's leaning down. She took a sip of what appeared to be water. The gentleman next to her patted her and showed her a little bit of reassurance, right? That's the jury. And I wrote, she's visibly upset, to the point that the juror next to her left, consoles her. They enter into evidence, exhibit number 85, which is a mugshot of Karmelo Anthony. They said, is this the Karmelo? Is this the guy you saw that day? He said, yeah, but he looks all cleaned up now.
Oh, wow.
The defense is going to talk about that later.
Oh,
they said,
wow.
can you tell us what happened at the previous track meet before this fatal day? I need you all to listen in very closely. This is why it's
Okay, what did I miss? What did I miss when y'all start saying wow?
To get people into the courtroom that's going to tell you.
Listen. Oh, man, how far back ago was that?
Around on social media that Karmelo Anthony was not supposed to be at the track meet because he was suspended. That's not true.
That's not true.
To today's testimony. Now, it may change later, but according to today's testimony, under oath, the head track coach testified that Austin Metcalf was not supposed to be at that track meet.
Yeah,
and
Austin.
That he had kicked Austin Metcalf off the track team because the previous track meet, he became upset with Austin and Hunter because they left the track meet early to go fishing. And as a result, he kicked Austin off the track team. His exact words, I didn't need him there.
Y'all hear that?
Austin had a crappy, this is his words, he had a crappy throwing season. I didn't need him there, and I kicked him off the team. Under oath.
What?
Austin Metcalf, according to his own coach, was not supposed to be there. He was kicked off the team.
Austin was not supposed to be there. Okay, so y'all listen. I was away. What happened when Natural Nolan said, listen, and then Samantha said, wow. What did I miss? And then you said, see, what did I miss? Loud and clear. What did I miss? And how far back was it? Yes, what did I miss? How far back was it? I'm gonna go back a little. I'm sorry. Samantha.
Exhibits 21 and 22, they were photos. Exhibit 21 was a solo photo of Austin Metcalf. Exhibit 22 was a photo of
Was
Austin
it before this or after? Come on, y'all, talk to me. What time is it? 11:30. Come on. Are y'all still here? Y'all not gonna say nothing? Are y'all still here? What are we doing? Right, because I'm asking the question, Samantha. I'm trying to see how far back it was when y'all was saying wow and she was saying see. Just go back. How far?
Hunter Metcalf. He was able to ask. He was asked, "Are you aware? Are you familiar?"
Do I need to go back some more?
He said yes. Are they in this?
Or did I go back far enough?
So he identified them in court. Now I'm just tell you what happened. I'm not gonna give you my opinion yet. So Mr. Starr explained that the tent. He said the tent business in high school sports is $1 million industry for tents. That your tents mark your spot in the stadium.
Do I need to go back some more?
Designated spots.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And schools can have them customized with their logos, with their colors, and it represents your bench, which is similar to football and basketball. He said that a tent should have a coach under the tent at all times. So then the state interrupted him. And let me tell you why they interrupted him. He gave a lot of information without being asked. Okay? So the state interrupted him so he wouldn't get ahead of himself because he said he was kind of giving a little bit too much information without being prompted. So the state said, wait. Tell us about having a coach in proximity to a tent. Did you catch that? Because he used polarized statement. Initially, the coach used polarized statement. Should always have a coach. And the state said, wait, we're not there yet. Can you tell us about having a coach in proximity to the tent? And then the coach said, yeah. Well, for Frisco ISD, the expectation is other students should not be underneath your tent. In track culture, you don't have someone go into somebody else's tent. And weapons aren't allowed. And they said, well, what do you mean weapons aren't allowed? He said, well, it's just kind of understood in Frisco And what he began to do, and I don't want to go into too much detail, he painted Frisco ISD as superior to Dallas ISD and Irving ISD. And he stated that Dallas and Irving have metal detectors at their school events, but not Frisco. Coach Starr went on to say that Austin and Hunter Metcalf, they are considered throwers on the team. Throwers. They throw the shot put and the disc. And the difference about this particular track meet is it was a district meet, and it was his responsibility as a coach to host it. So when he's hosting this particular track meet, he said there's a little bit of extra pressure. That meant he was down a few coaches, and that was the reason he wasn't in the tent. And that morning, he sent a text to the throwers, which included Austin Metcalf, along with Hunter and some of the other throwers, and asked them to step up and help the team out. The state said, did you enlist other men on the team to assist? Yes. Throwers? Yes. Big boys. He said basically he described them as the bigger boys. They can lift heavy weight. They can help throw up the tents. They can help the girls out, carry the heavy stuff. His intent was for the boys to step up and align with Memorial High values.
Shout out to
if you ever wanted to
Queen
start your own
Sheba.
clothing brand, but you
Shout
didn't
out
want
to
buy
Queen
inventory,
Sheba.
At this point,
Darling
they asked
is
him, was there
Queen
an official
Sheba
rain delay?
Darling.
He said there was no official rain delay. They said, can you tell us what happened at 10 a.m.? Did you have an issue at 10 a.m.? He said, yeah, I had an issue at 10 a.m. with a crock pot. And at this point, everybody in the court began to laugh because he said what happened is, the ladies run a concession stand, and one of the moms or one of the ladies forgot a crock pot. He didn't think it was a big deal, but it's a big deal to them. They needed a crock pot. So somebody was bringing the crock pot. He stepped outside the stadium at 10 a.m. to retrieve the crock pot. When he entered back into the stadium, he saw commotion. And he began to head toward the tent, and kids were running all over the stadium. And he said he noticed that the kids were running from his tent, which was crazy. He said for some reason, things were so chaotic, he couldn't get directly back to his tent. For some reason, he just couldn't. I don't know if it was along the fence, but he said his brain is foggy. The memory, everything happened so fast. He said, I just couldn't get my way back here fast enough, right? At some point, he drops the crock pot and he begins to run because he thinks maybe the kids in his tent are fighting. He gets to the tent, and this is where it gets really, really emotional. He said he gets to the tent. He sees Austin Metcalf on the ground. At this point, Austin's face has turned purple. There was a gaping hole in Austin's chest. He said he just starts crying. The students are crying. And at this point, he used the word memory fog. He said, Eddie is losing it. I step over Austin's body, like people are screaming his name, Coach, Coach, Coach. This is the way he's saying it. He stepped over Austin's body. Because people are saying, help Hunter, help Hunter. Hunter is saying to the coach, do something, do something, do something. And the coach said, who is he? Where is he? What happened? Who did this? And the students start to point across the field to Karmelo Anthony, who's on the track field. He said he see Karmelo Anthony walking with two other coaches on the field. The coach takes off. He said he testifies he hops over the fence. He confronts Karmelo Anthony, which seems like according to him, he lost his shit. He lost his cool. He said he told Karmelo Anthony, you're not going anywhere. What the hell did you just do? He took off his hat, he physically threw it to the ground. And whatever the exchange was, the other coaches asked him to leave. They asked the track coach of Austin and Hunter to leave. He said Karmelo Anthony replied, he put his hands on me, he put his hands on me. At this point, on testimony, under oath, the coach admitted that he was losing it. And the other coaches asked him to leave and pretty much get the hell out of here. He then says that he described Karmelo Anthony as hysterical. He said he hops back over the fence to go to tend to Austin Metcalf. And at this point, they all start to pray. And then people start to yell again, please go help Hunter, go help Hunter. So then he runs to Hunter, and they start praying with Hunter. And at this point, this is when the thumbnail right here, this is why we're here. This is when Miss Barbara, and that's not her name, but that's what I nicknamed her. She's this.
Miss Barbara.
Crying. She's wiping her eyes. She's leaning down. She took a sip of what appeared to be water. The gentleman next to her patted her and showed her a little bit of reassurance, right? That's the jury. And I wrote, she's visibly upset, to the point that the juror next to her left, consoles her. They enter into evidence, exhibit number 85, which is a mugshot of Karmelo Anthony. They said, is this the Karmelo? Is this the guy you saw that day? He said, yeah, but he looks all cleaned up now. The defense is going to talk about that later. They say, can you tell us what happened at the previous track meet before this fatal day? I need you all to listen in very closely. This is why it's so important to get people into the courtroom that's going to tell you the truth. There has been rumors circulating around on social media that Karmelo Anthony was not supposed to be at the track meet because he was suspended. That's not true, according to today's testimony. Now, it may change later, but according to today's testimony, under oath, the head track coach testified that
I would say that G Fiber gives you the stress-free home that we all look for in life.
Once I joined Google Fiber, I never.
Austin Metcalf was not supposed to be at that track meet, and that he had kicked Austin Metcalf off the track team because the previous track meet, he became upset with Austin and Hunter because they left the track meet early to go fishing. And as a result, he kicked Austin off the track team. His exact words, I didn't need him there. He said Austin had a crappy, this were his words, he had a crappy throwing season. I didn't need him there, and I kicked him off the team. Under oath. Austin Metcalf, according to his own coach, was not supposed to be there. He was kicked off the team. His words was, I didn't need him there. But he allowed him to come and help out because Austin Metcalf wanted to prove himself. Then they entered into evidence the text message exchange between the head coach and Austin Metcalf, where the head coach says, turn your and Noah to district. Turn your stuff in. I'm taking Romir and Noah to district. And then the text goes on. The summarization of the text is the coach is fussing at Austin Metcalf and Hunter about being selfish and not being team players. He said, you and Red are on an early bus. No, I'm sorry, that's a different text. Let me see, hold on, if I wrote it. Give me 1 second. Hold on. I'll come back to it. I gotta find it. Okay. On that day, Austin had wanted to prove himself that he could be a team player. He was ready to step up. Reading a text to help to encourage Austin to step up and be a leader says, you and Red are on bus. Get the tent and whatever else. Set examples of how to conduct yourself today. Be a leader. You and Red hold us down. They hand the witness over to the defense for cross-examination. The defense starts off. 2 weeks after the death of Austin Metcalf, you went to the police on April 16, 2025, correct? Correct. And you told the police that Karmelo Anthony should not have been under your tent because it wasn't raining, correct? He's like, I don't know if I said that. You don't remember if you said it. He said, I don't remember. But I guess if it's in the police report, I said it. And he says, well, what do you mean by that? He says, I'm a country boy. I didn't see it as heavy rain. I saw it as light drizzle. So at this point, the defense begins to establish the line of questioning to ask the coach to describe what is track culture. Is it true that in track, sometimes you have a lot of downtime? And they use an example. Can an athlete run a race at 10 a.m. and then not run again to 3 p.m.? That's correct. And sometimes they walk around, they talk, they play with their friends, they visit each other, correct? Correct. You said that it's Frisco ISD policy where students cannot go under tents. So the coach replied, no, I don't recall. He said, you said it. He said, I don't recall saying that it's a written policy of Frisco ISD.
Oh, yeah.
And the defense said, okay, I want to clarify on record. But it's not unheard of for students to go and talk to each other, correct? The coach said, no, that is not the norm for students to go talk to each other under each other's tent. And at this point, let me give you my opinion. I was a collegiate athlete. I played volleyball in college, and I was a high school athlete. I ran track, I played volleyball, I played basketball. At this point, I was following the coach until he said, it's not the norm for teenagers to go under each other's tents to talk to each other. And that's when I wrote, he just lost credibility with me. Because they do it all the time, whether they're supposed to or not.
Yeah, they do it all the time.
Supposed to, right? And that's when I said, I just made a note, he lost credibility. Okay, with me. So then he says, nope. They listen. No. Coach Starr said in Frisco, this won't fly, being under somebody else's tent. And the defense said, well, wait a minute. But other coaches may not be as strict, may not. And he says, so this is your preference, right? He says, no, this isn't my preference. This is my athletic director's preference. I just follow the orders. The defense then asked, did you know that Centennial didn't have a tent? He said, no, sir, I did not. So your text was more of a teaching moment on the day that you kicked Austin off the team. Right? He's like, well, I don't know what you mean by that. He said, you told the police on April 16, 2025, that you really didn't have an intent to kick him off the team. You were just trying to scare him into shape. He's like, well, he says, well, would it be safe to say that you have a lot of pride? The coach said, well, I need you to clarify, explain that. He says, you know, this pride as an athlete. You coach linebackers, correct? Yes. And linebackers are big guys, correct? Yes. How much did Austin weigh? He says, I can't tell you that. I don't know. I don't know how much he weighed. I believe he played maybe at 195 pounds, but he did want to bulk up. Austin did express an interest in wanting to gain weight. The defense says, can you testify that Austin was at least over 200 pounds? I'm not sure.
What?
But he definitely gained weight, probably over 200. He probably got close to 225, but I'm not sure. So you told Austin the morning of this fatal incident in your text to, quote unquote, hold this down. Yes. With no other instructions. That's correct. So
I talked about that yesterday.
Using physical force. No, sir. Of course not. Shouldn't students go get adults when there's a problem or when things escalate? Yes, sir. But you said you wanted other adults or other coaches should be around because teenagers have hormones, correct? Yes. Can you tell us what you meant? They were skipping all over, right? And can you tell us what you meant when you says Karmelo Anthony cleaned up today?
Want a front row seat to see exactly what areas of the stock market my team is moving money into this week? Charles Payne here. For the very first time.
He says, well, his hair wasn't like that. And the defense team said, but was his hair then normal to what kids and how kids normally wear their hair?
No, yes. He didn't. Hey, in my opinion.
So you said that you saw Karmelo Anthony after the fatal incident. That's correct. So you wouldn't want Austin Metcalf using physical force. No, sir. Of course not.
Oh, no.
Shouldn't students go get adults when there's a problem or when things escalate? Yes, sir. But you said you wanted other adults or other coaches should be around because teenagers have hormones, correct? Yes. Can you tell us what you meant? They were skipping all over, right? And can you tell us what you meant when you says Karmelo Anthony cleaned up today? He says, well, his hair wasn't like that.
Oh, wow.
And the defense team said, but was his hair then normal to what kids and how kids normally wear their hair? Yes. So you said that you saw Karmelo Anthony after the fatal incident walking with two coaches, correct? Correct. You have no idea how long he was with those coaches, correct? Correct. You don't know what was said, correct? Correct. You didn't know his state of mind, correct? Correct. He said, but you told police on April 16, 2025, your words was he looked like he was about to cry. Yes. So they wrapped up that witness. And at this point, I think I'm doing a good job of staying neutral, so I'm going to hold my opinion to myself. Third witness they called was Tiffany Whitaker. She's a trainer, an athletic trainer at Memorial High School. She's been a trainer. She just completed her 8th year. She opened the school. So the school was brand new in 2018. She opened the school. She's a Texas girl. She's a TCU graduate. She received the Bachelor of Science in Athletic Training. She's board certified. She's CPR and first aid certified. They asked Tiffany, the culture of the tents. Tiffany explained to the jury that the tent is like a locker room. Now here's where things kind of, I'm not going to say got tricky, but Tiffany in her testimony contradicted Coach Starr. Because what they asked Tiffany, is it normal for students to visit and say hello? She said absolutely it's normal for students to visit each other's tent. But we don't like them stowing their stuff in tents that they're not assigned to, and we don't want them to stay there too long, right? But yes, it's normal for them to go and say hi, and just don't leave your stuff here because we're not responsible for it, and you know, they can't stay too long because we got to make sure we have enough room for our students. She said, they asked her, were you aware that it was going to be raining and that weather, you guys were under weather watch? She said, absolutely. The athletic director told us. Now, the reason why I say her testimony is contradictory to the head coach is because he said, no, there was not supposed to be any weather. But she said, yes, it was. And she contradicted him because she said the athletic director gave them instructions that if the storms hit, to send the kids to the bus. She said, okay, so her testimony was straight and to the point. Once she learned that there was an incident under the tent, she approached the tent, and at the time that she approached the tent, Austin Metcalf was blue in the face. His pulse was faint. She began to administer rescue breaths and chest compressions. A defibrillator was used. They asked her a couple of questions about the life-saving technique. She said, I can't really tell you because I was on autopilot. I was trying to save his life. Now, let me ask you something, for those of you that are tuned in. If there's a wound to the heart, and this is just from our medical professionals that may be in the chat, do you guys still recommend chest compressions if someone has been wounded to the chest or the heart? All right, thank you, Trelene Bell for the $20 super chat. She said, Queen, please see what's going on. I gotta stay on topic. Okay, I'll come back to that. All right. She said she continued life-saving techniques, chest compressions until the paramedics arrived. When the paramedics arrived, they took over the life-saving techniques and they administered blood. Did y'all know that? On site to Austin Metcalf. Once they administered blood, Austin's color began to return. She was a little bit hopeful, but not confident that he would be able to survive. So then the defense cross-examined Tiffany Whitaker, and Tiffany testified that Karmelo Anthony was seen running from people chasing him. She said she had a brief encounter with Karmelo Anthony after the incident that was approximately just her hands. She didn't physically touch him, but she put her hands out. You know, if you just kind of put your hands out like to stop.
Last month, my rent and bills hit at the same time. I looked at my bank account and just thought, yeah, I'm stuck.
And he stayed. He obeyed her. He didn't run. He stayed with her. They asked her, would you say he's a small guy? She said, compared to what? They said, you know, just athletics. She said, he's smaller, not considerably, but there's, to her, this is what she said. She said, there's at least a 70, well, they say, is there at least a 70-pound difference between Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf? At least 70, minimum, right? She said, that's fair to say. She also testified that Karmelo Anthony was visibly upset, and there was a coach embracing him. Why is this important? Because both sides have testified that he showed remorse. We're going to get more into detail. He did show remorse. He became visibly upset after the incident, right, wrong, or indifferent. All right, they asked her about the tents. They said, have you seen or have you ever witnessed in your career students visiting tents? She said yes. Ain't nothing wrong with that. That's what the defense said. She said, nope. Was it raining on and off that day? Yes. Did you know Centennial did not have a tent? No, I did not know that. Would it make sense for students with no tent to duck under another tent for cover? She said, absolutely, yes. Can you describe Austin? She said Austin was about average to the bigger side for a linebacker, but not bigger than some of the other offensive and defensive linebackers. She said for the most part. So then they start to get into kind of like the bravado of athletes. Would you say it's normal for teenage boys to not back down? You know, if you're going to have a confrontation, based on, she said that's pretty normal. Would you also say that, or agree that most teenage boys, if in a confrontation and their friends are there, they don't like to be embarrassed in front of their friends? She said that's fair. She was a very honest witness. She was very credible. So was Mike Porter, the forensic specialist. So then they went to the fourth witness, which was, I put his name as Vince Cooper, but according to reports, it's Hooper. He's a head football coach at Heritage. He's very likable. So these are all the state's witnesses. Very likable. Raspy voice. Open, light, easy, jovial. He seems very upfront and honest. He barely could speak a few words, and I said, that's an honest guy. According to Mr. Vince, he's 6'2", and he weighs 240 pounds himself. He relocated to Texas after he lost his son in 2015. They asked him, was it hard? Has it been hard on you? He said, I think it's been harder on my wife, because I also have 4 other children. So it seemed like the focal point in the questioning was establishing, well, I'm not going to talk about that. Oh, that's a personal name. So he's the head track coach. Yeah, he said that. He's the head track coach since 2018. They asked him about tent culture. He says, your kids go into your tent. You get it? He kept it short and sweet. Your tent, your kids. However, kids do mingle. On April 2nd, 2025, he arrived about 8 a.m. But then at 10 a.m., they asked him, did you leave? He said, I left to go to my car to get batons for 4x1 relay. You know, they were in the car, so when he comes back into the stadium, he witnesses kids running, they're yelling. He's telling the kids, this was kind of lighthearted. Hey, you can't stop running all around the stadium. Go back over here, behave, sit down. What are y'all doing? Y'all are crazy, just running around. He's like, he didn't realize what were happening.
They've been lies all around.
Y'all are crazy in here.
They've been lies all around.
At this point, he's approached by Coach Tiffany. Coach Tiff, that's what he says.
It's so sad
shouting,
it is.
Don't let him leave. Don't let him leave. At this point, he's like meeting Karmelo Anthony head on. He doesn't know Karmelo, but he said he immediately put his arm around Karmelo, not in an aggressive way, but the way he demonstrated in the court would be like a father figure way.
All right, this feels almost illegal to know, but our HVAC system was so old and inefficient, and we desperately needed a solution. So I called a few contractors, but they all quoted me a hefty...
This was sad, this testimony. He just wrapped his arm around him, he said, and we walked. And he said, Karmelo Anthony said, he put his hands on me. He said, what'd you do? He said, I stabbed him. And he said, at that point, he looked Karmelo Anthony in the face and he said, you do realize, son, that if this young man dies, you've just changed your life forever. And Karmelo Anthony responded, he's not going to die. He said, he repeated himself to Karmelo, you do realize, son, that if this young man dies, that you've just changed your life forever. And he said at that point, Karmelo Anthony begins to break down and starts crying hysterically. He said things are going so fast. Carmelo's crying. He remembered glancing at the field. He now knows, he sees Hunter Metcalf. Let me get the note, hold on the fence being consoled. Probably like on the fence, just leaning on the fence being consoled. And then he hears a black kid running towards him saying, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill him. He stabbed my brother. He stabbed my brother. He had to physically restrain this black kid, whose name is Eddie. And Eddie told him, I am going to kill him. And he said, you can't do that. We can't have 2 students dead. You can't do that. So he had to physically restrain Eddie and lay on top of him until another coach could come and take over Eddie. And they asked him, did Karmelo Anthony's emotions seem genuine? He said, yes. They said, do you know his heart? He said, no. Did the state, this is the government, they said, so did he start crying after you said, you better hope he doesn't die? He said, yes. So then the defense cross-examined Mr. Hooper. They said, do you feel Karmelo's emotions were genuine? Yes. Based on your experience as a coach, that's correct. When Karmelo told you that Austin Metcalf isn't going to die, what were your thoughts? He said, I don't think Karmelo realized that he stabbed Austin in the heart. I don't think he realized that he aimed for the heart. I'm gonna guess he wasn't intentionally trying to aim for the heart, but I don't think he realized the severity of his actions. They said, did he try to run? No, he did not try to run. Did he follow your instructions? Yes, he followed my instructions. And at one point, he said, I left him by the fence. And he never moved. And when I returned, he was still there. Is it unusual for kids to mingle? He said, no, it's not unusual. They do it all the time. And this is how the coach ended his testimony. He said, I've been a coach since 1994. And I love all of the kids, even the opponents, and I treat them all the same. I embrace Karmelo Anthony because I love the kids. And at this point, I looked at the jury, and there was one lady on the far end that was nodding her head. And that ended his testimony. So that was number 4. Hold on.
They said a lot of the jurors were asleep.
Y'all, that concludes my wrap up for the day. It didn't take me that long. I did not get a chance to hear the 911 call. Because at this point, after his closing statements, and he was dismissed as a witness, the judge sends us to give us a break. And I do believe he gave us maybe 15, 20 minutes. And he told us to be back at 5 p.m. I was back at exactly 4:59, 30 seconds away from 5 p.m., and the door was closed. All of my belongings were in there. And when I came back in, unfortunately, I wasn't able to hear witness number 5. And I was like, what do you mean he closed the door? He said, Judge Roach, you be tripping, man. I think the judge, he's grumpy. He locked that damn door. So I had to sit out for an hour. But that's okay. That's all right. Now I'm learning. Thank you, Tucker. Thank you. Now I'm learning a little bit more about the judge. And I know if he says 5, to be back at 4:58, not 4:59. So Queen Sheba got locked out of court. And I was there all day. And I appreciate each and every one of you helping me to get here to cover this case. I appreciate all of you.
What do y'all think? I think she gave some good details. I missed some of them. Hey, Jerry. But I did catch some of them. But listen, I'm looking at, y'all, I read y'all earlier what an attorney that I know in Dallas, I'm looking over some of his notes I missed. A day ago, he said, all Karmelo needs is one person to believe him. That's it. All he needs is one person to believe him. That's it. Okay? And then he also put a day ago, oh, I didn't read this one. I was trying to read. I read this one. He long-winded. I ain't gonna lie. Oh, he was talking about the jury of his peers. And he made mention to something that I talk about. He said, just so you'll know, many people have been saying, including me, Karmelo doesn't have a jury of his peers. Please understand that the jury of his peers is not what many may think. Remember, the laws were not written for our best interests in mind. I'm not saying it does not work at times, but for the most part, we got the short end of the stick. I tell y'all all the time, the laws that were set against us and not against them, right? So this is going to be a controversy, and that's why Dominique said it's still in the books. It's still in the books. He also says, I'm not, okay. A jury of our peers simply means that your case is being heard by individuals who are supposed to be fair and impartial. Jurors should not be stricken based on race alone. Whenever a juror is stricken because of his or her race, we got to challenge it by filing a Batson's challenge. I think they did that. The presiding judge gets that rule on. This is why it's very important to participate in your local judicial election. I agree. Local and state elections have a greater impact on your daily lives than the shenanigans taking place in D.C. To make it simple, I'm making it as simple as possible. A jury of one peers refers to a defendant constitutional rights, where we know that's, to have a trial by a jury made of fellow citizens, not the color of their skin. Okay, because I was thinking there should be somebody black in there. The jury should be randomly selected of citizens where are a representation of a community where the case is being tried. This right applies to all criminal cases, but not necessarily all civil cases. So when we're thinking that he don't have nobody black on there, that's not what the law is set up and designed for. Okay? I will start paying more attention to what the Dallas attorney law firm puts out there and keep us on top of it on a attorneys who have studied the law, mindset, and knowledge. Okay, y'all. Good night. I gotta go. Bye.